Chapter 317. In Zetian Palace, Feng Jixing freshened up and put on the white-robe imperial forest armor again. This was the new armor Qin Yin had prepared for him. The Qin Empire originally had 6 experts who enjoyed the title of white-robe imperial forest: Du Hai, Feng Jixing, Chu Chu, Qin Lei, Lei Hong, and Yao Yuan. Now Du Hai was missing, Chu Chu, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong had died in battle, and Yao Yuan's whereabouts were unknown. In the vast Qin Empire, Feng Jixing was the only remaining white-robe imperial forest. On his collar, behind the purple flower, there were 3 gold stars. This was the rank of a commander. Feng Jixing's heart skipped a beat. He felt as if thousands of arrows were piercing through his heart. Zhang Wei was promoted to the deputy commander of the imperial army. In addition, Feng Jixing had taken Xia Hoseng away from the Longdan army camp. Therefore, both Zhang Wei and Xia Hoseng followed behind Feng Jixing. It looked quite imposing. Congratulations, General Feng. Tang Lan cupped her fists and smiled. Feng Jixing nodded. Thank you, Duke Lan. However, behind Tang Lan, Tang Tian, Tang Lu, Tang Wei, and the other Tang clan generals all had looks of jealousy on their faces. They seemed to understand that Feng Jixing's return was a great provocation to the Seven Seas city's Tang sect's strength. After all, Feng Jixing was Qin Jin's old general, and also one of the Empire's 7 divine generals, a famous general of the present age. Feng Jixing submitting to Qin Yin and Su Muyin was definitely not a good thing. Qin Yin sat on the throne and said, Feng Jixing is loyal, brave, and unyielding. I am specially promoted to Jingguo General and Commander of the Imperial Army. I order you to rebuild the Imperial Army of Lanyan City. In addition, your first mission is to lead 50,000 troops around the dragon-seeking forest and go straight to Tianshu province. Bring Yuqi Tian's head to me. General Feng, can you do that? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Rest assured, Your Highness. Xiang Yu had once been a sinful general under Qin Jin's edict, so there were people who stopped him from being promoted. However, Feng Jixing was originally one of the imperial commanders, so there was nothing wrong with him being promoted to second-rank state general. At the side, Su Muyin smiled and said, General Feng, the 50,000 elite troops have been prepared for you. You can take a rest tonight. Tomorrow, we will set off for Dubhe province. Yes, Duke Yin. Feng Jixing was very respectful. He also knew that the military power of the empire was not in the hands of Qin Yin, but in the hands of Su Muyin and Tang Lan, the 2 guardian Grand Dukes. He had to be polite to these 2 people. That night, in the Forbidden Army's main camp, Zhang Wei and Xia Hoseng were preparing their war horses, weapons, and armor. They were all beaming with joy, but Feng Jixing was carrying a wine jar. He mounted his horse and said, I'm going out for a walk. You guys stay here and wait for my orders. Zhang Wei hurriedly said, Commander, let me bring a team of guards with me. The empire is in turmoil, and it's not safe anywhere now. Feng Jixing's laughter came in the wind. Don't worry. Who in Lanyan City has the ability to kill me now? Zhang Wei was speechless. Just as Feng Jixing said, Xiang Yu had set off for the war. There was no one in Lanyan City who could be a match for Feng Jixing. The starlight scattered on the ground. Feng Jixing rode his horse straight into the imperial mausoleum. In the distance, the nation-guarding monument glowed brightly under the starlight. Feng Jixing sat beside the nation-guarding monument and looked up at the names of Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Qin Lei. He drank a mouthful of strong liquor and felt that the liquor burned his throat. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. As he laughed, tears flowed down his cheeks. He quietly leaned against the nation-guarding monument. As the moonlight fell on his face, Feng Jixing choked with sobs and said, You once asked me if I was afraid. I said I wasn't. Now I'm afraid. Brother Feng knows how you feel. The 4 heroes of Lanyan disappeared in the blink of an eye. I'm the only one left. I'm so scared. How can I continue on my path in the future? You. Old Chu Alei, how are you guys doing in that world? The nation-guarding monument was cold. Feng Jixing raised his head and took another sip of strong liquor. He sobbed like a child and said, If only we could go back to the days when we were drinking in the pavilion of raindrops, how good would that be? He looked up at the jungle in the distance. His eyes flashed with despair. He knew that he could never go back. After a long time, Feng Jixing stood up and poured the remaining liquor in the jar under the nation-guarding monument. With a determined look in his eyes, he said, "Brothers, wait for me. On the day Feng Jixing unifies the territory of the empire, I'll accompany you to drink in the netherworld." He turned over and mounted the horse, galloping away. The next day, Feng Jixing led the 50,000 troops of Muyu City on an expedition to the east and went straight to Tianshu province. At this time, Xiangyu was leading the troops to attack Wugu City. This was undoubtedly another head-on blow for Iha country. Once they lost the protection of Tianshu province, Wugu City would become a lonely city and lose all reliance and support. Empire Calendar Year 7731, June 27, 10 miles north of Wugu City, Xiangyu's army camp. Buckets of blood-red berries were transported into the camp. The berries emitted a strange fragrance, but all the soldiers in charge of escorting them had cold eyes and did not look at the berries at all. "General is here." A Chiliarch dismounted and saluted respectfully. Xiangyu carried the bloodbath spear and rode his horse into the crowd. He asked, "Is everything ready?" "Yes, General." A military officer in a purple robe cupped his fists and said, "Almost all the blood fruits in Songnan province have been picked by us. A total of 182 buckets of berries have been gathered." "How toxic is it?" Xiangyu asked. The military officer smiled. "A 1,000-year-old elephant accidentally eats a blood fruit. It's enough to kill it. In these wooden buckets, there are at least hundreds of blood fruits in each bucket. General should be able to guess the toxicity of these nearly 200 buckets of blood fruits." Good." Xiangyu smiled slightly and said, "Pass down my order to the 3 armies. From today onwards, our drinking water can only be fetched from the dragon-seeking forest. We can no longer use water from the rice river. As soon as it gets dark, immediately dump all the berries into the rice river. The rice river is the river of life for Wugu City. As long as the rice river is poisonous, Wugu City will be defeated and destroyed." "Yes." One of the captains of 7 Seas City was astonished, and he said, "General, these blood fruits won't just kill the traders of the Iha nation. They'll kill the commoners of 5 Valleys City as well. There are 2,400,000 people in 5 Valleys City." "So what?" Xiangyu said lightly. "These people were originally citizens of the empire, but they pledged allegiance to the Iha nation. Death cannot wipe out their crimes. Pass down my order. There must be no mistakes. If there is any crime, I, Xiangyu, will bear it alone." "Yes." That night, 182 buckets of acute pain berries flowed down and melted into the rice river. The rice river surrounded Wugu City and provided all the city's daily water supply. The next day, hundreds of thousands of people died in Wugu City. It was chaos. Both sides of the city road were filled with the moans and wails of the poisoned. It was unbearable to hear. A row of cavalry slowly passed. Dingxi was wearing a general's cloak, his hand on the hilt of his sword. His eyes swept across both sides and said lightly, "It is confirmed that the water source has been poisoned, is it?" "Yes, General." The guard on the side said, "The entire rice river has been infected with poison. All the dead fish on the river surface have floated up as far as the eye can see." "Bastard." Dingxi clenched his fist and said, "Pass down my order, no more drinking water from the rice river. Dig underground water sources to drink." "But General, the rice river is deep. The poison must have already entered the underground water. Even if we drink well water, we will still be in danger of poisoning. This," Dingxi frowned and said, "perhaps we should consider withdrawing our troops. Immediately follow me to see the commander." "Yes." The governor's manor in 5 Valley City had now become Qin Yi's governor's manor. Dingxi entered with his sword in hand. When he entered the hall, he saw Ji Yao and LV Zhao from afar. Qin Yi was leaning against a chair with his eyes closed, his face full of fatigue. It seemed that after the northern expedition, which had almost destroyed half of the empire, Qin Yi had not enjoyed the pleasure of becoming a king. "Is it General Dingxi?" Qin Yi asked lightly. "Yes, General." Dingxi cupped his fists and said, "Commander, Xiangyu poisoned the rice river. Moreover, it's a blood fruit poison. Hundreds of thousands of people have died today. This general suggests that we immediately abandon Five Valleys City and lead the army out of the city. Take the people of Five Valleys City and head south to Hundred Ridge City. LV Zhao's face turned cold. Ding Shi, are you advising the commander to abandon the 8 northern provinces of Iha country? This general does not dare. Qin Yi slowly opened his eyes and said, pass down my order. Everyone starts drinking well water. Do not drink rice river water. Hold on for another 3 days. If Xiangyu still poisons, then withdraw. Yes. Also, what about Long Qianlin? Inf. LV Zhao said disdainfully. That cowardly rat has already led his troops to the Sword Pavilion. He doesn't even dare to step into Wugu City's territory. He has been scared out of his wits by the imperial dogs. Qin Yi said lightly, Long Qianlin is not that kind of person. All right, all of you are dismissed. Prepare for the withdrawal. Yes. In the following days, a large number of people in Wugu City died. On the 4th of July, Wugu City was breached. When Xiangyu and the imperial army entered Wugu City, they found that it was already a dead city. Excluding the hundreds of thousands who escaped from the city, the remaining 1.8 million people were all poisoned to death. The Iha country's army that could not retreat in time was ambushed by Xiangyu's army. 30,000 people were killed and 40,000 were captured. On the 7th of July, Xiangyu led 30,000 troops to pursue Qin Yi. They were ambushed by Long Qianlin's sword pavilion and lost more than 10,000 men. He then decided to withdraw. On the 15th of July, year 7731 of the empire's calendar, Feng Jixing defeated the Heaven's Corps and captured 40,000 men. He also captured Yuqi Tian and Yuqi Yen, recovering Divine Shadow City and Heaven's Core Province. At this point, the neighboring Earthstar Province, Songnan Province, and Heaven's Core Province were all recovered and incorporated into the Empire's territory. Apart from a small portion of the Iha country's troops that remained in Tongtian Province and Lingdong Province, the rest of them retreated to Lingnan. At this point, the Empire was divided into two. On the 21st of September, year 7731 of the Empire's calendar, Qin Yi was crowned Empress. She was given the title Empress, and the Empire's name was still Qin. Chapter 318. It was September 21st, the day of the Empress's coronation. On this day, there was only laughter and joy in Lanyan City. Qin Yin's proclamation as the Empress was tantamount to announcing the true reconstruction of the Empire. The people of Lanyan City had suffered deeply from the massacre of the Iha kingdom. This kind of pain penetrated deep into their bones, and was unforgettable. Compared to the hypocrisy of the Iha kingdom, the people loved this generous and benevolent empress even more. The square of Zetian was crowded with countless commoners who had come to watch the empress's coronation. The crowd crowded from Zetian Palace Hall all the way to Tongtian Street. It was extremely lively. Accompanied by the ringing of the bell, the officials divided into two groups and stood outside the main hall. The square of the main hall was filled with the newly organized Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards in bright armor. Feng Jixing and Xiangyu, the two famous generals who had just been promoted to first-rank generals, stood guard outside the main hall. Your Highness, please. Su Muyin shouted with a smile on his face. Surrounded by the officials, Qin Yi slowly walked out of the main hall. Her beautiful face was expressionless as she stood there gracefully and calmly looked at everyone in the main hall. Her hair was coiled up high and was inlaid with the Empress's golden swan neck crown. It was elegant and dignified. Under the velvet shawl, she wore an exquisite blue robe that was the same color as the uniform of the Empire's soldiers. Her waist was adorned with gold and silver tassels, and her perky twin peaks protruded from the front of her robe. On the front of her robe, there was a gold-bordered purple flower, which was the Empire's emblem. Xiaoxi, present the pearl of imperial power. At her command, Tang Xiaoxi, who was dressed in a beautiful red dress, held a tray in her hand, and respectfully came in front of Qin Yi. She looked up with a smile and said, Xiao Yi, come. Qin Yi nodded with a smile, and reached out to hold the golden scepter. This was the treasure that represented the royal power, and was once held by Qin Jin. Holding the scepter in one hand and the golden and blue pearl in the other, Qin Yin's snow-white face carried a faint smile as she turned to look at the officials in the main hall, and the people of the empire in the distance. For a time, the whole Lanyan city seemed to be boiling at this moment. Xiaoxi, come with me. Qin Yin turned to look at her best friend. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and reached out to hold Qin Yin's little hand. The two of them walked step by step towards the throne. Below the throne, an attendant was holding a golden laurel crown. This was a custom-made laurel crown for the empress. Grandfather, Qin Yin said softly. Su Muyun hurriedly went forward and knelt on one knee. Then he lifted up the laurel crown and took off Qin Yin's original crown, putting this supreme laurel crown on her. In an instant, all the officials knelt down and shouted, "Long live Her Highness the Empress! You may rise." Qin Yin gently raised her hand. After all the officials stood up, she said, "All of you have helped Qin Yin recapture Lanyan City, and even recovered Sungnan Province, Tianshu Province, and Earthstar Province. 6 of the 8 provinces in Lingbei have returned to the Empire's territory. On behalf of the family, Qin Yin thanks all of you for your hard work and contributions." She bowed and made a ladylike bow. Immediately, all the officials were overwhelmed by the favor and returned the bow. Qin Yin blinked and continued according to the agreed procedure. Duke Yun of Yunzhong Province, Su Muyun, has contributed greatly to the Empire of Great Qin. He especially conferred the title of Duke Yun, which can be passed down from generation to generation. Everyone shouted, "Congratulations, Duke Yun! Congratulations, Duke Yun!" Su Muyun knelt respectfully in front of Qin Yin and said, "Your old servant thanks your highness." Qin Yin continued, "Duke Lan of Qihai Province, Tang Lan, has contributed greatly to the Empire of Great Qin. He especially conferred the title of Duke of Qihai, which can be passed down from generation to generation. In addition, Tang Jin's second son Tang Lu has been conferred the title of Marquis of Lingbei. Tang Ju's eldest son Tang Tian has been conferred the title of Marquis of Lingxi. Tang Jin's daughter, Tang Wei, has been conferred the title of Princess Wei." Everyone from the Tang family knelt down to express their gratitude. Qin Yin smiled and nodded for everyone to rise. Beside her, Tang Xiaoxi was the closest to her. She blinked and said, "2 marquises and 1 princess. Grandfather wants you to confer these titles?" "Yes." Qin Yin's voice was very soft. "The Tang family has contributed greatly to the empire's recovery. This is what they deserve." Tang Xiaoxi laughed bitterly. "Even though Tang Lu, Tang Tian, and Tang Wei are my brother and sister, they're all mediocre people. What ability do they possess to deserve such a title?" Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "Xiaoxi, you're the best." "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi looked at her faintly and said, "Xiao Yin, the empire has just been stabilized. So many people have died, and so many fields have become barren. I'm afraid we'll need a few years to recuperate before we can raise the issue of war again." "Yes." Also, according to Duke Yun and grandfather, I, as the Princess of Qihai City, will also be going to Demon Subduing Pass. "When are you leaving?" Qin Yin seemed lost. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and held her hand, saying, "I'll leave tomorrow, but don't worry, little Yin. As long as you need me, I can come back to Lanyan City to see you at any time. Also, Duke Yin seems to be worried about the Demon Clan. If I don't personally guard the Demon Subduing Pass, he's worried that the Demon Clan will re-enter the central region. Yes, grandfather is too paranoid." "Yes," Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said. "It's just that I can't stay in Lanyan City to accompany you every day. It'll be very boring for you to be the empress. Zai, if only you was here." Qin Yin's eyes turned red, and she wanted to say something but stopped. That night, Zetian Palace held a banquet to entertain the officials. Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, and Wei Qiu sat together, chatting casually. Meanwhile, Xiang Yu was even more glorious. The rank of commander-in-chief on his shoulder glowed with a golden radiance, complementing the proud look on his face. "Congratulations to young Lord Tang Lu for being promoted to the Marquis of Northridge." Xiang Yu cupped his fists and said to Tang Lu with a smile. Tang Lu was young and successful, so he didn't put anyone in his eyes. The corner of his mouth rose. "What are you talking about? I can't compare to General Xiang Yu. My title of Northridge Marquis is just an empty title. How can I compare to General Xiang Yu?" A rice river was turned into a river of dead people by General, and Five Valleys City, one of the 7 famous cities of the empire, was turned into a dead city by General. He, in this world, I'm afraid no one can compare to you. Xiangyu was stunned, and his face turned ashen. A general's success is built on the bones of tens of thousands. This is the way of the ancient times. Marquis, why do you have to ridicule me like this? Ridicule? Tang Lu couldn't help but laugh. He patted Xiangyu's shoulder and moved closer to him. Xiangyu, you're just a stray dog. If grandfather hadn't taken you in, would you have had the chance to accomplish anything? But you're a smart person. I think you should know what to do. Xiangyu's face turned pale. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Marquis' lesson is right. Xiangyu will forever remember Duke Lan's kindness of giving me a new lease of life. If I forget, I'll definitely be stabbed by a sword. Good, that's good. Tang Lu smiled and passed by Xiangyu in a drunken manner. He went to greet Tang Tian, who wasn't far away. One was North Ridge Marquis, and the other was West Ridge Marquis. Tang Lu and Tang Tian could be considered to have a sufficient status in the empire. In the side hall of the banquet, Qin Yin sat beside Su Muyin in silence. Xiao Yin, what's going on? Su Muyin asked with a smile. Qin Yin's gaze stopped on the fruit platter on the table. She mumbled, Grandfather, I want to rebuild the military system and turn the Longdan army camp into a regular army. I want to build an army of 30,000 men, and promote Wei Chou to a third-rank country protector general. What does grandfather think? Expand the Longdan army camp? Su Muyin frowned. He patted Qin Yin's shoulder and said with a smile, Let's put this matter aside for the time being. Wei Chou is still young. If you want to put him in an important position, you can let Wei Chou come to the Iron Blade Army to be a captaincy. I believe he's competent enough. Why? Qin Yin clenched her fist and bit her red lips. Why don't I, the Empress, have the authority to build an army? Su Muyin smiled faintly. Silly child. What nonsense are you thinking about? You are indeed the Empress, but grandfather will help you with the matters of the army. Your Aunt Lian will also help you. You don't have to worry. Moreover, you're not young anymore. Grandfather doesn't have to worry about other things but your marriage. Qin Yin remained silent. Su Muyin continued. Qin Yan, that brat, is the son of Prince Ji Ning. After Prince Ji Ning and His Majesty were killed at the Fairy Lake, many of Prince Ji Ning's former subordinates had contact with Qin Yan. I think his character is not bad. Little Yin, if you don't mind, in another 2 years, when Qin Yan comes of age, grandfather will arrange your marriage. How about that? Qin Yin clenched her fists so hard that her nails were about to sink into her flesh. Tears swirled in her eyes. She shook her head lightly and said, There's no need. Qin Yin has already grown up. I will be with the person I love. Don't mention this matter again. Otherwise, grandfather, you know my temper. Su Muyin was stunned. Okay. I know you're stubborn. If you don't want to, then forget it. Xiao Yin Tanglan is now the Empress. The military power under her control is getting stronger and stronger. Haven't you thought about anything? That's between the two of you. I don't want to interfere. Qin Yin stood up and said, I'm going to look for Xiaoxi. I won't accompany you. Looking at Qin Yin's lonely back, Su Muyin let out a long sigh. At the side, Su Yu drank a cup of grape wine and said indifferently, Father, Xiao Yin is not your puppet monarch. What you're doing is too much. Su Muyin turned to look at his daughter. In the cold night, his gaze was like a sword. 100 miles away, compared to this banquet filled with fine wine and delicacies, the dragon-seeking forest seemed much colder. It was already autumn, and the nights were already very cold. Yet at this moment, a heavy downpour fell from the sky. Boom! The mountain suddenly collapsed, and a large section fell off. It also washed out the purple crystals that were buried under the soil and rocks. The rain washed the purple crystals very clean. After the heavy rain stopped, the clouds parted and the moon shone brightly. The light from the stars in the sky shone on the crystal. Suddenly, the eyelids of the person in the crystal seemed to move. Do your best. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor called again and again. Lin Ruoji, it's time to wake up. Since you've already absorbed the light from the stars, your soul should be awake. How long do you want to sleep for? I'm a god emperor, but I've been calling you like a midwife for a few months. How can I endure this? Ah! All of a sudden, the soul that had been asleep for a long time woke up. His Yi was in a state of chaos. Wisps of white light condensed into Lin Muyu's body. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the chaos around him. He could not help but ask, "Where am I?" Chapter 319. Above his head was the boundless vault of heaven, and beneath his feet were the waves of 10,000 miles. It seemed like he did not need to ask to know where he was. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was awakened in his own Yi, but his body was not truly awake. Demon Emperor, how long have I been unconscious? He stood majestically above his Yi and asked. The waves surged and the seawater slowly parted. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor appeared proudly. His crimson robe and handsome appearance complemented each other, which was enough to prove that the recovery of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's godhead was close to a complete state. About 5 months. The Demon Emperor said lightly, but you're not unconscious. You've been dead for more than 5 months. If I hadn't used my divine power to restrain your 3 souls and 7 spirits, I'm afraid your soul would have been scattered, and you would have become a real corpse by now. 5 months. Lin Muyu was stunned. He bowed to the Demon Emperor and said, "Thank you, Demon Emperor. I know that with your current cultivation, you can completely leave my body and ascend to the heaven realm." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's expression was calm as he said lightly, "Lin Muyu, you traveled through time and space to save me, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, in the 17th level of purgatory. If I don't repay you for saving my life, I won't be able to rest easy for the next 10,000 years, even 100 million years. So this time I must save your little life." "But how?" Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. "If I remember correctly, my heart has already been crushed by Luolan." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't help but laugh. The heart isn't an irreversible vital point. If your head was chopped off, I would indeed be powerless. But don't forget, your left arm was reconstructed from one of the 9 great sacred weapons, the Profound Spirit Ruler. The Profound Spirit Ruler is born with the ability to heal itself. As long as we gather enough sunlight, rain and dew, and absorb the spiritual energy of the earth, we can reconstruct your heart. Really? Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Yes. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor nodded and smiled. But don't celebrate too early. After all, it's rebuilding the heart. Besides, we're trapped in the Acatosaurus's dragon crystal. We can only slowly gather this spiritual energy. This process will take a long time. How long? The longest is a few hundred years, the shortest is 3 to 5 years. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor chuckled and placed his hands behind his back. But don't worry, I have the body of a god emperor. Time is not a problem for me at all, because I am immortal. Not to mention a few hundred years, I can even accompany you for tens of thousands of years. But I can't afford it. Lin Muyu looked helpless. What's the situation outside? Has the Qin Empire been destroyed? Has the Iha kingdom succeeded? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes. I'm trapped in this dragon crystal just like you. What you don't know, I don't know either. How am I supposed to answer your questions? Now what do we do? Lin Muyu was burning with anxiety. I must be reborn soon. Maybe Xiaoyin is fine. As long as she's not dead, she must need me now. Reborn soon. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor glared at her. Do you think you can be reborn just because you say so? Like in games, you can revive on the spot with a gold coin? Be honest and do it step by step. The first step is to open your eyes and use your body to feel the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Use your eyes to accept the spiritual energy of the sun, moon, and stars. The only thing you have to do is to open your eyes. I'll help you with the rest. Yes. Lin Muyu slowly sank her spiritual sense into her body and felt the broken body. At the same time, she seemed to be able to feel Acatosaurus's energy. Yes, Acatosaurus used the dragon's life force to protect her body from damage before it died. It was loyal. For the first time, Lin Muyu felt that it was so difficult to open her eyes. Because this body was dead, She couldn't control it at all. If she wanted to open her eyes, she had to make her soul and body fit together. But it wasn't easy. After all, her soul had been away from her body for 5 months. After dozens of minutes, she sighed. She still couldn't open her eyes. Take it slow. The 7 luminaries demon emperor continued to plant spiritual roots in the sea. These spiritual roots could only be condensed by an emperor god. Only an emperor god could rely on this special method to cultivate. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled as he planted the spiritual roots. Lin Muyu, if you recover, what do you want to do the most? Lin Muyu was startled. She sank her spiritual sense into her Ihai and said, if the empire has been destroyed by Iha country, I will do everything possible to rebuild the empire. If the empire hasn't been destroyed, I will help Xiao Yin to destroy Iha country. Luo Lan killed Grandpa Lei Hong. I must avenge this. You, a heavenly king, want to challenge an ultimate god? The 7 luminaries demon emperor couldn't help but laugh. Why not? I will take my time to cultivate, Lin Muyu said lightly. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said, your body is still too weak. You don't have the physique to fully use the 7 luminaries' profound energy. Otherwise, if you and Luolan had the same level of divine power, a 7 luminaries star transformation would be enough to doom him. Oh right, I forgot. Your stupid body can't even contain the power of the stars, let alone cultivate the 7 luminaries star transformation. Demon Emperor, is the 7 luminaries star transformation really that strong? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. Are you kidding me? The 7 luminaries is the essence of the 7 luminaries' profound energy. It is also this emperor's proudest self-created martial art. Then do I have the chance to master the 7 luminaries star transformation? That depends on you. When you open your eyes and look up at the stars, maybe your body will be able to absorb a little of the power of the stars. Maybe everything is unknown. Demon Emperor, when are you going to ascend? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was startled. He stood in the spiritual field in his Ihai and looked up at the sky. He sighed and said, actually, I won't hide it from you. My divine spark is already complete, and I can ascend at any time. However, I will definitely do what I promised you. After your body is reconstructed, I will ascend. You will fight in your empire's mainland, and I will fight in my celestial realm Star Sea. We don't owe each other anything. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Amen. Thank you. In the night, faint fluorescent light danced around the purple crystal. The figure inside the crystal was slightly blurry, but one could already faintly see that the figure was surrounded by beams of profound light, like a shooting star in the dark night. After a whole month, finally, under Lin Muyu's perseverance, there was a slight movement in her body. Her eyelids trembled slightly, and she suddenly opened her eyes under the starry sky. He was extremely excited to have regained his light. His body happened to be lying on his back facing the starry sky. The feeling of the beams of starlight sprinkling on his body was indescribably comfortable. Although his body was trapped by the dragon crystal and could not move, he could already feel the power flowing through his meridians. However, the speed of the flow was very slow because the blood vessels in his body had not started to flow yet. His heart was broken. Without the beating of his heart, how could his blood flow? Not bad. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed in the sea. The first step has been completed. Feel the power of the stars. The stars in the universe contain power that is stronger than heaven and earth. This can quickly heal your body. Also, don't forget the blessing of wind, frost, rain and dew. Amen. Lin Muyu opened her eyes wide and looked at the sky. At the same time, streams of cool dew seeped down from the dragon crystal and sprinkled on her body that had been trapped for a long time. It was as if rain and dew were nourishing a barren field. Very soon, Lin Muyu felt a sensation on her skin. She had already recovered part of her 5 senses. A thin wind passed through the holes in the dragon crystal and slowly moistened her body. At the same time, along with the wind and dew, the spiritual power of heaven and earth also slowly watered Lin Muyu's body that had been dead for a long time. Just as the 7 luminaries demon emperor had said. This process was very slow. At this moment there was a pung sound. It was as if a golden lock in her mind had been opened. Immediately after, golden words slowly entered her mind. In an instant, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was about to die from exhaustion. She quickly absorbed the power of these words, and her mind instantly felt as if it was about to crash. At this moment, the long-lost Lulu appeared. Her transparent body flew out of Lin Muyu's mind with a whoosh, and floated in the dragon crystal. She quickly hugged Lin Muyu's neck and intimately rubbed her face against his neck. She smiled and said, "Big brother didn't die. This is great. Big brother didn't die. This is really great." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Her spiritual sense said, "Lulu, you're still here?" "That's right." Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, "Lulu has always been here. It's just that Big Brother couldn't sense Lulu when he was asleep. Congratulations, Big Brother. You've unlocked the 12 styles of the Dragon Taming Spear Technique." The Dragon Taming Spear Technique. Lin Muyu smiled and remembered. This Dragon Taming Spear Technique was a skill he was proud of in the game Conquer. However, the unlocking process now was the detailed explanation of the 12 styles of the Dragon Taming Spear Technique appearing in his mind. Those golden words were all imprinted in his mind. It wasn't really unlocking it, but for him to learn and comprehend it. Once again, Lin Muyu was stunned by this mysterious power. The Dragon Taming Spear Technique had a total of 12 styles. They were Seeking the Way form, Hongchuan form, Dashing form, Lin Yuan form, Mountain Shaker form, Thunderclap form, Scales Caressing form, Spear Lock form, Break form, Tail Swing form, No Attack form, and Dragon Capture form. Each style was stronger than the previous. In the game, it was just a skill that could be easily learned. However, in this world, each style had more than 1,000 words of detailed explanation, so it wasn't that easy to learn. However, in this continent of Shattered Cauldron realm, most generals use long weapons such as halberds, spears, and knives to charge and break through enemy lines. As long as Lin Muyu learned the Dragon Taming Spear Technique, he would definitely be unparalleled in the world. In the depths of Ihai, it seemed like the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had also sensed the abnormal power invading Lin Muyu's mind. Somewhat speechless, he said, "What the hell is this? Do you have secret martial arts manuals in your mind?" "I don't know either." Lin Muyu had nothing to hide from the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. She said, "Ever since I transmigrated to this world, these skills have been unlocked one by one. As for why, I don't know." "Is that so? Let me take a look." The godhead of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor suddenly became active and seeped into Lin Muyu's mind. In a short moment it returned to Ihai. With a cold expression it said, "Kid, you're injured." I'm injured?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill. Yes. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's gaze was solemn. "I found a piece of metal in your mind." "Piece of metal?" Lin Muyu was silent for a moment. Her eyes shone brightly. "I finally understand why I can comprehend skills one by one. It's because someone implanted a chip in my body. It's been like this since the beginning. Isn't that right, Lulu?" Lulu pursed her small lips. "I don't know. I'm just a string of data. But speaking of which, Lulu's origin seems to be the chip in brother's mind. That explains it." Lin Muyu thought for a moment, and decided not to think about it anymore. It was just who implanted the chip in her mind. But right now this chip was definitely helping her. Only by cultivating properly and changing her fate would she be able to find the truth. Chapter 320. Spring passed and winter came. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the first month of the 7734 year of the Empire, Tang Lan and Su Muyan led 400,000 troops to cross the mountains and attack Lingkong province. They were defeated by Long Qianlin, one of the 7 marshals of Lingnan, using a delaying tactic. A heavy snowstorm caused the imperial army to lose all supplies and suffer a large-scale attack from the Iha kingdom. They lost more than 200,000 men. Lingdong province and Tongtian province were seized by the Iha kingdom. Corpses littered the Qinling mountains for thousands of miles. This was the empire's first crushing defeat since its reconstruction. Even Xiang Yu and the other generals were injured. In the 3rd month, the army returned to the imperial capital. In the Zetian Hall, Qin Yin's beautiful face had lost some of its tenderness after the baptism of wind and frost, but it now had a mature charm. She pressed her hand on the hilt of the Ziyin sword and stood majestically in front of the throne. She looked coldly at the people in the hall and said, "Grandfather, Your Highness the Seven Seas King, give me a reason why we lost this time." Tang Lan and Su Muyin knelt before the palace in silence. Feng Jixing stood at the side with his hand on the hilt of his sword. He suddenly walked out and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, we didn't lose this battle. Our every move was under the enemy's control. Most of our supplies were intercepted and burned. That's why the 400,000 troops lost their supplies on the Qinling Mountains. Moreover, they were delayed for too long and didn't have enough clothes. The heavy snowstorm completely lost the Empire's combat power." "What's going on?" Qin Yin asked. Feng Jixing said, "In these 3 years, Lingnan has once again built close to 100 new House of Chivalry in the northern mountain ridge. We have tried many times to encircle and annihilate them, but to no avail. They are hidden deep in the mountains and are too cunning. Furthermore, those chivalrous rangers have been constantly reporting our military intelligence to the Iha Kingdom. This is also the biggest reason for our defeat." Qin Yin heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Xiangyu, send troops to guard the borders of Tianshu Province and Sungnan Province. Don't let the Iha Kingdom attack again. Commander Feng, you're in charge of destroying the House of Chivalry. I don't want the House of Chivalry to exist within the borders of the Empire within half a year." "Your Highness, What, is there a problem?" "Yes." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Does Your Highness know of the 7 Saint Realm experts of the Iha country? Hanjun Luzhan, Fan Yun, Duan Mufang, Xiaohozhu, Yin Li and Buhai are all disciples of Luolan. Now 3 of them have entered the northern mountain ridge. They are hiding in the House of Chivalry in the forest. This is the reason why we have failed to conquer the House of Chivalry. Are we just going to let them continue like this?" Qin Yin's eyes were filled with determination. She said, "Wei Chou, bring the Longdan army camp to assist General Feng. You must uproot the House of Chivalry in Lingbei Province and Sungnan Province." "Yes, Your Highness." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said. Beside him, Qin Yan, Luoyu, and Feng Shi also looked eager. The Longdan army camp had not made a move for a long time. This was an opportunity. As for killing a Saint Realm expert, it was not too difficult. After all, Lin Muyu had left behind 100,000 white diamond arrows, which were the trump card of the Longdan army camp. "Your Highness." Su Muyin cupped his fists and said with a cold expression, "In the Battle of Linkong Province, the Empire lost many soldiers and generals. It is all my fault. I ask for punishment, and I am willing to strip the title of King of Yinzhong." "It is rare for grandfather to be so righteous." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Approved. Men, strip Su Muyin of his title of King of Yinzhong, and restore his title of Duke of Muyin to show that there is a clear distinction between punishment and reward. Grandfather, you don't have to take it to heart. Victory and defeat are common in war. We just have to win it back next time. We have the 7 Seas Province, Cloud Province, Lingbei Province, Sungnan Province and Tianshu Province, a total of 5 rich and fertile lands. Iha country will not be able to hold on for long." "Yes, Your Highness is wise." Su Muyin knelt on the ground again. At the side, Tang Lan frowned and finally knelt down slowly. He said, "Your Highness, since Duke Yun has resigned from his title of king, Tang Lan should also resign from his title of duke and restore his title of Duke Lan." Approved. Qin Yin was very happy. In the afternoon, 5,000 imperial guards left the city under the leadership of Feng Jixing, followed by 1,000 elites from the Longdan army camp. Due to Tang Lan and Su Muyun's repeated obstructions, the Longdan army camp was unable to expand to more than 1,000 men. Fortunately, Wei Chou led the troops well. These 1,000 men were all elites, skilled in archery and horsemanship. Their combat strength was far superior to any army of the same size within the empire. "Commander Wei Chou." Feng Jixing held the reins and said, "Which mountain do you think we should attack first?" "Dragon Rocky Mountain." Wei Chou's expression was not very good. He said, "Those bastards from the Hall of Chivalry reoccupied Dragon Rocky Mountain a year ago. This is a disgrace to our Longdan army camp. I have long wanted to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain. All right then. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth rose. He said, however, Dragon Rocky Mountain is currently guarded by the headquarters of the Hall of Chivalry in Lanyan City. It is said that there is a Saint Realm expert living on the mountain called Buhai. Half a year ago, when Xiangyu went to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain, he was rebuffed and almost lost his life there. Even Xiangyu was not a match for Buhai. Wei Chou couldn't help but be speechless. That's not it. Feng Jixing's eyes turned cold. He said, Xiangyu had already stepped into the Saint Realm a year ago. In terms of strength, he should be on par with Buhai. It was just that he received a secret order from Duke Lan to withdraw his troops and return to Lanyan City. Humph. Wei Chou said coldly, presumably Tang Lan doesn't want Buhai to die. That's not necessarily true. Feng Jixing placed his hand on the hilt of his saber. With a warm spring breeze on his face, he said, I guess Tang Lan is worried that Xiangyu, a valiant general, will be killed, so he is waiting for other imperial troops to attack Dragon Rocky Mountain. You should also understand that among all the major legions in the empire, only the Imperial Guards and the Longdan army camp are directly under the command of the Empress. Wei Chou smiled meaningfully. Unfortunately, the Longdan army camp is limited to less than 1,000 people, and the Imperial Guards are limited to less than 20,000 people. Otherwise, don't think so much. Feng Jixing tightened the belt of his cloak and said, Let's take one step at a time. As long as we are here, no one will dare to touch Her Highness. That is enough. Yes. Wei Chou's eyes flickered with light as he muttered. It's a pity. Commander is no longer around. Otherwise, he would also be someone who could make decisions. At the very least, he would not let Her Highness suffer so much humiliation. Feng Jixing raised his head to look at the clear sky and said unhurriedly, That fellow Yu is indeed a rare talent for a general, but it's a pity. Let's not talk about it anymore. Tonight we will station our troops at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain and attack it tomorrow. In Lanyan City, in the spiritual medicine department, birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. Butterflies were fluttering in the air. Chu Yao slowly opened one of her hands and slowly extracted the essence of the herbs. Her beautiful eyes were very calm. Beside her, the pear blossom sword was swaying slowly in the air as if accompanying its mistress. Great Deacon, you are still refining the medicine yourself. An old man dressed in a deacon's attire laughed. Yes. Chu Yao nodded lightly and said, If I let myself calm down, I really don't know what to do. So, when I have nothing to do, I will refine more medicine. Deacon Li, is there anything I can help you with? Yes. Deacon Li cupped his hands and said, The Divine Temple needs a few bottles of anti-aging medicine. However, this anti-aging medicine is a level 8 formula. We old fellows are helpless, so we can only trouble Great Deacon to personally refine the medicine. I see. Chu Yao blinked and asked, Is the Divine Temple's Great Deacon Guiyang sick again? Yes. Deacon Li said respectfully. After Great Deacon Guiyang regained control of the Divine Temple, his health has not improved. You also know that Great Deacon Guiyang has not stepped into the sanctuary realm, so time is taking away his life. He is already more than 90 years old, so I'm afraid he will not be able to reach the sanctuary realm in his lifetime. He can only rely on anti-aging medicine to maintain his life force. I understand. Chu Yao pursed her red lips and said, The level 8 formula needs some time to be refined. Come back to collect it at dusk. Yes. Deacon Li looked to the side and saw a black pearl hanging on the bracket of Chu Yao's desk, swaying gently. This was what Qin Ying got from Lin Muyu and passed to Chu Yao. Great Deacon, this pearl. Who are the people carved on it? He suddenly asked. Chu Yao was stunned. Her graceful body stood there for a long time. After a long silence, she murmured, They are the people I yearn for day and night. They are the people I only see in my dreams. Deacon Li was taken aback. He cupped his fists respectfully and bowed to Ling Longzhu. Lord Chu Huaying and Lord Lin Muyu's spirits in heaven will definitely bless the empire's prosperity. Great Deacon, please don't be too sad. Oh right, about the marriage proposal from Marquis Lingbei a few days ago. Chu Yao said indifferently, Don't bother me with such matters. I will not marry anyone. Yes. The divine temple, the temple in the hearts of the empire's warriors, had been rebuilt. However, the black ashes on the walls had not been completely cleaned up. It was as if to remind the world of the humiliation and hatred. In the great deacon's office, Gu Yang's silver-haired hand was holding a pen shakily. He was replying page by page on the file. A young Silver Star instructor said with a smile, "Great Deacon, your hand holding the pen is trembling more and more." Gu Yang glanced at him and said, "You are so meddlesome." "I know." He suddenly put down the pen and leaned back in the chair. He said with a smile, "I'm old. This should have been done by the younger generation. Unfortunately, the talents in the holy sanctum of the empire have withered. Many geniuses lost their precious lives in the chaos of Lanyan City 3 years ago." Alas, the young instructor smiled. "Great Deacon, are you talking about Deacon Lin Muyu? Although I have not seen him before, everyone in the Divine Temple remembers him. He is the youngest person in the empire to have the strength of a heavenly king." "Not only the strength of a heavenly king." Gu Yang's eyes flickered with a faint light. He said, "If you did not die, with his speed of advancement, I am afraid he would have already stepped into the holy region." Great Deacon's resignation request to His Highness was rejected. His Highness said that the Longdan army camp also needs people. No matter what, Qin Yan cannot return to the Divine Temple as the Great Deacon. "Yes, they all need people." Gu Yang heaved a long sigh and picked up his brush once again. Chapter 321. In the middle of the night, the starlight transformed into beams of beautiful light that shot deep into the mountains. The huge purple crystal had been completely washed out by the torrential rain, and was exposed to the starlight. The young man in the crystal looked at the starry sky like lightning. His whole body surged with fighting energy, and the starlight slowly seeped into his body like flowing water. "It's finally done. The stars have entered my body." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor cheered in the ocean of mind, as if Lin Muyu's success in obtaining the power of the stars was equivalent to him cultivating a peerless martial art. Phew, Lin Muyu exhaled slowly. The wound on her chest had slowly healed after 3 years of cultivation. Just as the Demon Emperor had said, the profound spirit ruler in her left arm had the world's most mysterious healing power, and had the ability to bring the dead back to life. Moreover, at this moment, Lin Muyu felt that her body was overflowing with the power of the stars. In the ocean of mind, another voice sounded, "Brother, I feel terrible." It was Lulu. "What's wrong, Lulu?" Lin Muyu asked in shock. Lulu wailed in pain, and her graceful body appeared in the ocean of mind. She hugged her head and moaned. When she raised her head, her face was pale and she said, "Brother, be careful, something is going to rush out of my head." "Rush out of your head?" Lin Muyu looked confused. "Lulu, don't scare me." However, at this moment, there was a sudden bang. In Lin Muyu's mind, another huge golden lock was unlocked. Some obscure golden characters turned into stars and fell into the ocean of mind. As if a meteor storm had fallen in the ocean of mind. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was shocked and hurriedly turned to dodge. At the same time he shouted, "What is it?" After about half a minute, the meteor storm finally stopped. Lin Muyu was sweating profusely as she lay in the crystal. Her face was flushed and she said, "Is it the star technique?" "Yes." Lulu gasped for air with her mouth wide open. "When I deleted the constellation arts, I didn't delete it completely, and the data was left in my cache." "Brother, did you see the constellation arts?" "Yes." Lin Muyu was ecstatic. The astral arts was the ultimate skill in the game Conquer. There were a total of 9 levels, and she was unrivaled in the world of Conquer, with the help of the astral arts. Now that she had actually obtained the martial arts secret manual of the astral arts in the real world of the Shattered Cauldron realm, this was simply a great fortune bestowed by the heavens. The golden words shuttled back and forth in her mind. Lin Muyu's martial arts foundation was already very deep, so naturally, she could easily understand these secret manuals. The first level of the astral arts, astral integration. Now that he had completed it, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The fighting energy flowing in his body began to revolve rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a deep blue star energy floating in the palm of his hand. It was the first move of the star formula, initial starlight. Lulu smiled and said, "Congratulations on regaining the star art, big brother." "Yes." Lin Muyu slowly dispersed the star energy in the palm of his hand, only to feel that the qi gene in her body had never been stronger before. However, when she tried to comprehend the second level of the astral arts, she encountered some obstruction. The martial arts manual stated that one must cultivate the star energy in the sea of mind, but with Lin Muyu's current attainments, it was clear that she was unable to do so. After trying for a while, she could only give up. The most important thing now was to break this purple crystal before her, otherwise it wouldn't be considered a true resurrection. At this time, Lin Muyu also realized that the chatterbox of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had actually been silent for a long time. She couldn't help but ask, "Demon Emperor, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying a word?" The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was silent for a while, then said, "Weak chicken, where did you get this astral arts from?" "It came with the game." "How is this possible?" The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor roared angrily in the sea of mind, actually causing waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. He stood in the sky, looking disdainfully at the sky, and said, "I, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, exhausted my entire life to research this unparalleled secret art, the 7 luminaries' profound energy. You brat! How could you comprehend such an unparalleled secret art like the astral arts? The astral arts is stronger than the 7 luminaries' profound energy?" Lin Muyu asked. Yes, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was a magnanimous person. He nodded and said, "Not only is it stronger than the 7 luminaries' profound energy in terms of strength, but it refines the power of the stars in the universe to cultivate martial arts, so there is almost no backlash to the body. Tell me the truth, who researched and created this astral arts?" "This, I really don't know. How about?" Lin Muyu pondered, then said, "The martial arts of the astral arts are in my mind, Demon Emperor. You also live in my High. You can take it and cultivate at any time, I don't mind." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed. "There's no need for that. Just because you are so honest, I can't secretly learn your unique secret art. Moreover, I, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, never believe in heresy. Don't worry, I have all the time in the world to improve and strengthen the 7 luminaries' profound energy. I definitely won't lose to your astral arts." Weak chicken, do you feel the increase in strength? Yes, why? Because you have broken through and stepped into the 3rd heaven of the heaven realm. I see. Lin Muyu looked around and said, "It's a pity that there is no strong spiritual beast to provide spiritual energy for me to advance. I don't know if the Green Gourd will be able to obtain the ability of the martial spirit if I miss this opportunity." "Who said there is no spiritual beast? Look at the sky." Ah. Lin Muyu looked up and saw a golden light slowly swimming down from the sky. It was a 3-clawed golden dragon, its scales glowing with a faint golden light. This is a real dragon. A real dragon? How can it? Lin Muyu was shocked. The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch let out a hollow laugh. The Crimson Crystal Dragon's crystal is surrounded by the corpse of a giant python. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a giant python that has turned into a dragon. It has been a dragon for 10 years. So the true dragon that has turned into a dragon has returned to the corpse to absorb the remaining dragon force. It's quite a fortunate encounter. Let's find a way to kill the true dragon." "Slay a dragon?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "That is a real dragon." "Don't be afraid, you are such a coward." The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch burst out laughing. "It's only a cub of the dragon tribe. Its strength is at most equivalent to a spiritual beast that's around 12,000 years old. Besides, I already have a complete god horoscope, which allows me to materialize a physical attack. Do you really think you're going to lose to a real dragon with me around? More importantly, this real dragon can provide dragon energy to resurrect the Acatosaurus that has been dead for 5 years." Lin Muyu nodded. She could feel that the soul of the Acatosaurus did not dissipate. Instead it was entrenched in a ball, lying on her chest, looking up and howling at her. as if the dragon's soul still had the consciousness of the young dragon. At that moment, Lin Muyu had mixed feelings. The Acatosaurus's dependence and loyalty was really rare. Roar! The three-clawed golden dragon suddenly swooped down, looking at the purple crystal with hostility. It immediately opened its mouth and bit the purple crystal, but the dragon scale crystal of the Acatosaurus was too hard. It was not damaged at all. Instantly, the three-clawed golden dragon was enraged, opened its mouth and a ball of fire dragon breath. Voila! The high-temperature dragon breath burned the purple crystal, instantly causing the soul of the Acatosaurus to let out a cry. Now, break the dragon crystal! The 7 luminaries demon emperor shouted. Use the first form of your astral arts. Okay. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. Starlight once again appeared in her palm. A deep blue star suddenly exploded in the purple crystal. Bang! The entire purple crystal let out an explosive sound and cracks appeared on it. Damn! The demon emperor was shocked. No, if this continues, your body will be shattered by the astral arts before the purple crystal is broken. Can you use the 7 glorious stars transformation? Let me try. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and gathered all of his do qi. Immediately, the 7 luminaries' profound force circulated around his body. The profound force slowly turned into stars and appeared in his palm. He opened his palm lightly and instantly, dozens of stars turned into impact energy and blasted out. Bang! The dragon crystal exploded, releasing a golden light that shot into the sky. The golden gourd surrounded Lin Muyu, making him look like a god even though his armor was tattered. The 7 glorious stars transformation was indeed frighteningly powerful. Furthermore, it was an AoE attack. It was hard to imagine how much explosive power it would have if it was used in a chaotic battle. However, it was just a thought. The damage caused by the 7 glorious stars transformation could not be ignored. At this moment, Lin Muyu's newly reborn body was filled with pain, as if every inch of her skin was about to explode. Roar! The 3-clawed golden dragon roared and charged towards Lin Muyu. It opened its mouth wide and looked like it was going to swallow this powerful young man in one bite. However, it did not have the chance to do so. Suddenly, a golden figure rushed out of Lin Muyu's eye. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor with a complete divine spark. Evil creature! How dare you be so arrogant? The 7 brilliance demon monarch let out a roar and opened his hand. It immediately turned into a giant palm and grabbed the 3-clawed golden dragon's neck with brute force. He waved his left hand and unleashed the 7 luminaries' mystical force. Wisps of blood-red beastly force surged as the 7 brilliance demon monarch burst out laughing. Die! Triluminaries' demonic dance. Bang! The palm fell, and the 3-clawed golden dragon's head was instantly smashed, golden blood flowed, and it was dead. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Was this the power of a god emperor? F***ck, it was too exaggerated. A real dragon did not even have the power to resist in his hands. And the Triluminary's demonic dance was more than 10 times stronger than her when used by the real master, the 7 luminaries demon emperor. As if seeing through Lin Muyu's thoughts, the 7 luminaries demon emperor slowly threw the 3-clawed golden dragon's soft corpse to the side, rubbed his hands and laughed. Perhaps humans treat dragons as one of the strongest creatures, but to put it bluntly, I may offend the descendants of Yan and Huang, but in the endless divine realm, the role of the dragon clan is similar to the Huskies, Samoyeds, and Alaskans you raise. Lin Muyu said, that's the legendary 3-sled fools, don't underestimate them. Still stupid? Refine the dragon soul immediately. Yes. Chapter 322. Although the 3-clawed golden dragon's beast soul was only at the level of a 2,000-year-old spiritual beast, it was still a dragon soul. It was not easy to refine it completely. Fortunately, Lin Muyu had the treasure refining cauldron, and with the help of the heavenly fire, she finally managed to refine the dragon's soul after 4 hours. At the same time, the Acatosaurus's dragon soul slowly condensed and turned into a small dragon. It returned to its original appearance, but it continued to chew on everything. Not only did it finish the huge purple crystal, it also pounced on the 3-clawed golden dragon's corpse. It even swallowed the precious three-clawed golden dragon's spirit stone. Awoo! It raised its head and howled again. It had evolved. Not long after, 5 golden lines appeared on the small dragon's head. It had actually grown into a 5,000-year-old spiritual beast. As expected, it was from the Holy Dragon clan. After devouring the body of a true dragon, its growth speed was far faster than devouring normal spiritual beasts. As Lin Muyu refined the last of the dragon's soul, she smiled and asked, "Little fellow, what abilities do you have now?" The red crystal dragon proudly strode into the distance. Suddenly, it raised its head and let out a loud dragon roar towards the sky. Wung wung! The dragon's roar turned into a piercingly cold sound wave storm that swept out in all directions. Boom! The three-clawed golden dragon's corpse before it had fully transformed was instantly smashed into pieces. At the same time, the surrounding forest and grass were all razed to the ground. The 7 luminaries demon emperor opened his hand and formed a divine energy domain to protect himself and Lin Muyu from the impact of the dragon's roar. Lin Muyu glared at it and said, "Idiot, aren't you afraid of hurting me?" Xiaolong immediately ran back and rubbed his big head against Lin Muyu's leg. Naturally, Lin Muyu couldn't get angry. At this time, he had finally refined the essence of the three-clawed golden dragon's soul. He suddenly inhaled deeply, and the golden gourd around him emitted a blinding light. It had finally evolved into a grade 8 martial spirit. The golden color of the gourd slowly turned into a purple golden gourd. And at the same time, it gained a new ability, absorption. That's right, it could absorb the opponent's strength. As for how powerful it would only be known in future battles. Lin Muyu slowly let out a sigh of relief. Not long after, the dou qi in her body slowly calmed down. This time, it could be said that her cultivation had increased greatly. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out the dragon soul sword. With a forceful swing, a schwa sound cut through the air. At the same time, a few elf-like milky white dou qi spirits surrounded the blade. This was the unique ability of a third firmament of the heavenly realm, condensing dou qi. After the dou qi spirits were added, the power of this sword increased by at least 50%. This was the increase that Lin Muyu could feel. Moreover, Third Heaven Realm experts had a very pleasant title according to the cultivation levels of the continent, Celestial Emperor. It sounded very impressive, but it was not worth mentioning compared to the Celestial Emperor, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Alright, it's time for me to go. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor took a deep breath, and divine power circulated around his body. He silently looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Weak chicken, I'm about to ascend to the myriad of heavenly realms. I don't know when I'll come back. You'll have to rely on yourself in the future. Don't die. Wait for me to come back and see how strong you've become." Lin Muyu nodded, and said with some sadness, "Then take care of yourself in the future, Demon Emperor." "You're still calling me Demon Emperor?" The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor turned around and smiled. "Can't you be a little more emotional, like those little bitches? Big brother." Lin Muyu muttered. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body trembled slightly, and he gritted his teeth. He walked forward and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder lightly, saying, "Good kid, I originally wanted to help you kill Luolan and Lingnan before ascending, but this is your destiny. It doesn't seem right for me to complete it. This goes against the laws of heaven and earth. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor looked up at the sky, and with a shrill cry, a golden light shot into the sky, breaking a huge hole in the sky. Blood-red ancient text surrounded the hole, and turned into a pillar of light that poured down. Was that the path to the heavenly realm? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel envious, but also a little reluctant. "Alright, I'm leaving." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor leaped, and his whole body flew into the sky, and soon turned into a small figure. Lin Muyu sighed. Those who should go must go. She and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor met and fought against each other, and both wanted to kill each other, but who would have thought that they would become brothers who would go through life and death together in the end? But at this moment, suddenly, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's cry came from behind again. He turned around, and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor appeared on the bare ground, and said with a smile, "Oh right, There's one more thing I almost forgot. Oh, what is it? The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed and pointed at the forest in the distance, saying, "Shouldn't you be cutting down this forest because it's blocking your view of Big Brother?" His words instantly made Lin Muyu lose the feeling of parting, and she only shook her head. "You still don't know how to speak. Big Brother, what is it?" "I'll give you a good treasure." The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his hand and gently grabbed at the void. Instantly, a section of a charred broken sword appeared in his palm. This thing, although it doesn't look very impressive, if you can refine it with the treasure refining cauldron and integrate it into your bloodline, it will become a peerless treasure, and you will definitely go crazy with joy. Oh. Lin Muyu took the broken sword and said, "Is it that magical?" "Of course. When have I ever lied to you? Alright, I'm leaving. Take care of yourself, and don't get killed by others. If I'm not here, no one will be able to resurrect you." Okay. This time, the 7 luminaries demon emperor really left. He leaped into the void and stepped into a spatial crack. In the next moment, he appeared in another spatial crack high in the sky, and with a turn of his body, he disappeared into the gate of heaven. Not long after, the gate of heaven closed. Lin Muyu looked up at everything in the sky and couldn't help but sigh. Fate had always been like this. It was all about karma. When the demon emperor relied on his own body to cultivate the rebirth godhood, it was called karma. When the demon emperor cultivated the godhood and stepped into the myriad god realm again, it was called karma. There was no need to force anything, and he just had to walk the path in the future. Looking at his tattered body, he couldn't help but sigh. All of the sanctum's armor had been destroyed by Luolan, and he was now like a beggar. Lin Muyu took out his cosmos sack and rummaged through it, but he could only find diamond coins, white diamond crystals, pear blossom spear, and so on. The sanctum's armor storage had already been used up. Forget it, he would think about it after returning to the sanctum. Perhaps if the sanctum was still around. At this moment he suddenly missed Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao. Were they still alive? How was the Qin Empire now? It had been 3 years. He had to know what had happened in these 3 years. He gathered his Do Qi, and with a leap, he used falling star steps and disappeared into the forest. Looking up at the stars in the sky, he identified the direction and headed south. Lanyan City was to the south of the dragon-seeking forest, so he couldn't go wrong. After galloping until midnight, he was so tired that he was drenched in sweat. Finally, he got out of the dragon-seeking forest, and in front of him was an ordinary forest. There were no spiritual beasts that were too old in this forest, only some wild boars, badgers, wolves, and other animals. Therefore, there were many hunters and farmers scattered in the mountains. Not long ago, he saw a trace of light coming from a small house in the distance. At this time, Lin Muyu was cold and hungry, so he couldn't care less. He walked straight into the small courtyard and knocked on the wooden door. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. After a few knocks, a ray of light came from the small courtyard, and an old voice asked, "Who is it?" Lin Muyu said respectfully outside the door, "Uncle, I am a passerby. I encountered a wild beast and lost my luggage, so I want to stay here for a night and eat something hot. I will leave early tomorrow morning." Creak. The door opened, and the old man, who was about 60 years old, raised the oil lamp high and shone it on Lin Muyu's face. Seeing that he didn't look like a bad person, he said with a smile, "Young man, it's too dangerous for you to walk around in the forest alone in the middle of the night. Come in quickly." "Thank you, uncle." "Old woman, get up. Cook vegetable soup for this young man, steam 2 steamed buns, and find a set of my son's clothes." Not long after, Lin Muyu changed into a set of hunter's clothes. The old man looked at him with a smile and said, "This is my son's clothes. He went to Lanyan City to be a soldier 2 years ago, and hasn't been back for a long time. You can wear this set of clothes. It's good that you don't think it's shabby." "He went to Lanyan City to be a soldier?" Lin Muyu pursed his lips, put down the soup bowl, and said, "Uncle, which army does he belong to in Lanyan City?" "The Imperial Army. 2 years ago, when the Imperial Army recruited new soldiers, he joined." "The Imperial Army?" Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. "Who's the commander of the Imperial Army?" I think it's someone called Feng. Feng something. Feng Jixing? Yes, yes, yes. Young man, do you know General Feng Jixing? Of course I do. Lin Wuyu was very excited. Uncle, so, the empire has recovered. What about Iha Nation? You haven't been in the mountains all this time, right? The old man looked at him in surprise and said, those dogs from Iha Nation were naturally driven to Lingnan. Those beasts. Lin Wuyu widened his eyes and asked again, the empire? Who's the emperor now? There are no more emperors, the old man said faintly. What? Lin Wuyu felt a pain in his chest and asked, why are there no more emperors? Because there's only the empress now and no emperor. Ever since Her Highness Qin Yin ascended the throne, there has been no more emperors. So that's how it is. Lin Wuyu was almost scared to death and asked again, Uncle, do you know Princess Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao? Also, do you know the situation in the Longdan army camp? The old man was confused by the questions and replied, I'm just a hunter. I really don't know anything about these princesses and the army. Oh, I see. Thank you, uncle. Eat more and sleep early. Look at you, you must be exhausted. Yes. Chapter 323. Under the moonlit night, the Imperial Army camp at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain. Feng Jixing was sleeping with his clothes on. His saber was placed at the side. Outside the tent, more than 10 Imperial guards were observing the surroundings with stern gazes. They were on high alert. Rustle. The night wind blew the purple Yinhua Empire's war flag. The sound of the fluttering seemed to cover up the voice of the person in the wind. Be careful. It was unknown who shouted, but the voice was abruptly cut off halfway. It was as if someone had snapped the person's throat. In the next moment, a formless aura descended. The group of Imperial Army soldiers guarding the commander's tent were unable to move. There were even a few with lower cultivation who died with blood flowing out of their mouths and noses. This was the power of a domain. Amidst the wind, an old figure spun around. The light of the flames killed more than 10 Imperial Army soldiers. He stepped into the commander's tent and raised his palm. A wave of energy rushed out. Feng Jixing, who was lying on the bed, opened his eyes. He jumped up and grabbed the wind cutter saber. While in the air, he swept the saber out and shouted, Hot sand shattering gold. The golden quicksand energy appeared on the wind slasher blade. Do Ling lingered around the blade. Feng Jixing had already stepped into the third level of the heaven realm. The wind slasher blade rapidly struck the old man's palm. There was actually a dang sound. The palm was as hard as steel. Even the wind slasher blade couldn't cut through it. Formless energy rippled out, and Feng Jixing was forced to retreat several steps. He left the camp and looked at Buhai under the moonlight. He sneered. Buhai, I knew you would come. Buhai walked out of the tent step by step. There were several scars on his face, making him look quite sinister. He laughed loudly and said, Feng Jixing is indeed Feng Jixing. Unfortunately, no matter how strong you are, you can't reverse the fate of the Empire's defeat. Accept the judgment of heaven. He abruptly raised both his arms, and the power of his martial spirit surged. His martial spirit was a flame wolf, and was somewhat similar to Feng Jixing's violet electric flame wolf, just that it was much stronger. The power of a 9th-layer flame wolf was much stronger than an 8th-layer violet electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He gripped the hilt of his saber tightly and chuckled. Again. As a heavenly emperor, he already had the power to fight a saint venerable. Boom, boom, boom. After a few more explosions, the entire Imperial Army camp was in an uproar. Countless soldiers holding torches surrounded Buhai from all directions and aimed their bows and arrows at Buhai. Hey! Buhai's eyes turned cold after his iron fists collided and forced Feng Jixing to retreat. He already knew that his plan for tonight's sneak attack had failed. His opponent was well prepared, and Feng Jixing was not as weak as he had expected. The commander of Lanyan City's Imperial Army was extraordinarily powerful. It would take at least 50 rounds to kill him. However, there were more and more Imperial Army soldiers surrounding him, and he did not have that much time. Buhai leaped up and crushed the head of an Imperial guard with his battle boots. He laughed loudly and said, You have more people, so I won't bother with you. There are more than 3,000 swordsmen on Dragon Rocky Mountain. If you want to attack the mountain, go ahead and attack. Let's see how many teeth you can break after gnawing this hard bone. Trying to leave. In the darkness, Wei Chou rode his horse forward with a longbow in his hand. Behind him was a group of soldiers from the Longdan army camp. Even Qin Yan and Feng Shi were here. Qin Yan shouted and rushed forward with his spear. Get lost. Bu Hai waved his palm in the air, but it met with a martial spirit as hard as an iron plate. Qin Yan's dragon scale armor was known as the world's #1 defense-type martial spirit. How could it be so easily repelled? Being blocked by Qin Yan, the Imperial Army soldiers at the side immediately shot thousands of arrows. You want to kill me with mere arrows? Bu Hai was extremely arrogant. He waved his sleeve, and the chi of his domain surged out, twisting the arrows. He raised his palm, and the flame wolf martial spirit came out. Roar! A wave of flames fell into the crowd, and instantly, dozens of Imperial Army soldiers were on fire, and they howled miserably. However, Bu Hai ignored the attack of the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou, Luo Yu, Feng Shi and the others drew their bows and arrows from afar, and after aiming, a round of fierce shots was fired. Pa pa pa. Most of the arrows were blocked, but one of the white diamond arrows passed through the range of Bu Hai's chi, and with a pu sound, it drilled into Bu Hai's arm. Bastard! Bu Hai flew into a rage out of humiliation, but he also knew that if he stayed any longer, he would definitely die. Just like the legends said, the Empire had an army called the Longdan Army Camp, and they had arrows that could pierce through battle armor. They were very powerful. As a holy domain expert, Bu Hai couldn't fight against thousands of soldiers and horses, but it was still relatively easy for him to escape. His right arm was dripping with blood, and Bu Hai took out the arrow. He gritted his teeth and threw it away. After rushing out of the Imperial Army's encirclement, he immediately stepped into the dense forest, and didn't return to Dragon Rocky Mountain. Saving his life was more important than anything else. Under the moonlight, Feng Jixing slowly sheathed his long saber, and with a faint smile on his face he said, "It seems like the disciples under Luo Lan aren't all that powerful. There are still idiots." Wei Chou stepped forward and said with a fist and palm salute, "General Feng, Bu Hai has been injured and abandoned Dragon Rocky Mountain. What should we do?" According to the original plan, attack the mountain tomorrow morning, and uproot the forces of the House of Chivalry on Dragon Rocky Mountain. Wei Chou, after taking down Dragon Rocky Mountain, arranged for 500 soldiers from the Longdan Army Camp to guard Dragon Rocky Mountain, and protect Dragon Rocky Village at the foot of the mountain from the harassment of the House of Chivalry. Lanyan City has neglected this place for too long. Yes. Feng Jixing looked at the direction where Bu Hai escaped from afar, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He said, "Bu Hai, you can escape once, but you can't escape forever." In the early morning, the golden rays of the morning sun penetrated the clouds and shone on the earth. It was already late autumn, and the sky was sprinkled with white frost, as if it was a fine snow. Lin Muyu put a diamond coin on the table of the hunter's house, and left without saying goodbye. He tied the Qiankuan bag to his waist and wore the hunter's clothes with the dragon's spiritual sword on his back. He looked a bit like a chivalrous man in the mountains. He walked slowly along the rugged mountain road. When it was almost noon, he took out the flatbread in the Qiankuan bag and chewed it hard. He felt that the most delicious thing in the world was nothing more than this. This was probably the happiness of living. The water in the water bag had a hint of sweetness. This was the mountain spring water of the hunter's house. After drinking a few mouthfuls, Lin Muyu continued his journey. But not long after, a figure sprang out of the jungle on one side. It was an old man in a golden costume, with blood on his arm. It seemed that he was injured, and the old man's face was full of hostility. It was the injured Bu Hai. He had already seen Lin Muyu, so he immediately walked over and asked, "Young man, I want to ask you something. Do you know how to get to Songnan Province?" "Songnan Province?" Lin Muyu pointed to the east and said, "It should be this direction. Just follow the official road and you will reach it." "Good, thank you." Bu Hai cupped his hands and smiled. His eyes stopped on the hilt of the dragon's spiritual sword on Lin Muyu's back. He could not help but laugh. Looking at your attire, you should be a hunter in the mountains. It is rare for a hunter to have such an exquisite long sword. Oh. Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique had already sensed that the old man's dou qi was rapidly increasing. He did not come with good intentions. He immediately smiled and said, "Yes, it was passed down from my ancestors. Can you give it to this old man?" Bu Hai laughed and said, "That won't do." Lin Muyu had a petty look on his face. "Then this old man will have to steal it myself?" Bu Hai smiled with a sinister look. Lin Muyu also smiled. He raised his hand and pulled out the dragon's spiritual sword. He slightly smiled and said, "This old man's sword does not kill nameless ghosts. Tell me your name first." "A trash like you dares to call yourself this old man?" Bu Hai laughed loudly. The greed in his eyes intensified. The moment the dragon's spiritual sword was unsheathed, he was even more certain that it was a peerless sword. He sneered. "In the dragon-seeking forest there is nothing that I, Bu Hai, cannot obtain." His iron palm suddenly opened. The flame wolf martial spirit roared unceasingly. He actually wanted to forcibly snatch the sword. This was exactly what Lin Muyu wanted. The opponent was an expert of the sanctuary, so she first pretended to be weak, and her own chi strength was only at the human realm. Just as Bu Hai was grabbing the sword, she suddenly raised her dou qi to its peak state. The long sword suddenly flipped over, and a spiral chi strength lingered around it. The true dragon primary fire was rapidly injected into it. The rapidly spiraling dragon spiritual sword was not something that could be seized with bare hands. Bu Hai was startled. He felt the vigorous and overbearing power of the stars in Lin Muyu's body. His eyes swept over. A starlight shot out from Lin Muyu's palm and directly hit his back. "Sneak attack this old man? In your dreams." Bu Hai suddenly condensed his dou qi to form a battle armor behind him to resist Lin Muyu's fierce attack. But he didn't know how strong Lin Muyu's strength was. The power of the star art surged on his arm, and directly hit Bu Hai's back with initial starlight. Puff. Bu Hai vomited blood immediately. He had lost at least 30% of his strength due to his injuries. Now that he had stumbled into a third heavenly layer heaven realm expert with a unique skill like Lin Muyu, he was on par with her in terms of strength, but he was utterly defeated in terms of moves. Even the Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor was amazed by the constellation art, so how could Bu Hai possibly resist it? After defeating the enemy with one move, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her hand and grabbed Bu Hai's throat. She shouted in a low voice, "Who the hell are you?" Bu Hai gritted his teeth. "Your grandfather is the disciple of Venerable Luolan. If you dare to kill me, Venerable Luolan will definitely not let you go." "Luolan's people?" Lin Muyu frowned. "What, are you afraid now?" Bu Hai's eyes were filled with pride. Lin Muyu's eyes were cold. "Look at your age, you have lived in the stomach of a dog. Die in peace. Luolan will accompany you to hell sooner or later." True dragon essence fire surged between her fingers and began to burn Bu Hai's throat. Bu Hai wouldn't wait for death. He punched with his left fist, and the power of the flame wolf lingered around his fist. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She raised her other arm and spread her fingers. A purple gold gourd emerged, and a boundless cyclone quickly absorbed everything in the world. In the next moment, Bu Hai's flame wolf martial soul was forcibly sucked into the golden gourd. How? Bu Hai was shocked. In the next moment, the true dragon essence fire quickly swallowed his body. Chapter 324. Grabbing the purple gold gourd in his hand, Lin Muyu shook it vigorously. Sure enough, the flame wolf was still roaring inside the gourd. This was really amazing. Could the gourd absorb other people's martial spirits? Originally, he thought it was as simple as absorbing energy, but what to do with the absorbed martial spirit was also a big problem. No matter, he would refine it first. He immediately took out the treasure refining cauldron. Under the scorching flames, the flame wolf howled miserably. Even though it was a fire martial spirit, it could not withstand the temperature of the treasure refining cauldron. Woo-woo. Not long after, the flame wolf unexpectedly prostrated and made a gesture of submission. Lin Muyu's heart moved. He raised his palm and ordered, Enter my body and work for me." The flame wolf unexpectedly cried out in joy, but just as it was about to jump into Lin Muyu's blood vessels, its body suddenly shone brightly. The golden gourd came out of its body and rapidly spun. Waves of martial spirit's power rushed out and bombarded the flame wolf several steps back, causing it to fall into the treasure-refining cauldron. "My goodness, the golden gourd is repelling me." Just as Lin Muyu was hesitating, the crimson crystal dragon that was connected to his soul suddenly woke up. The dragon's soul pounced out and bit off the flame wolf's head. Then it swallowed the flame wolf in a few bites. Fuck! Lin Muyu was completely petrified. The things in front of him were completely beyond his understanding. The golden gourd martial spirit could steal other people's martial spirits, but it could not be used by itself. Xiaolong even ate Buhai's martial spirit. What was going on? As for why it could not have an offensive martial spirit like the flame wolf, perhaps it was because a person's body could not accommodate two martial spirits at the same time? If not for this reason, then there was only one other reason. The golden gourd disliked the flame wolf martial spirit, and did not want to coexist with it. If this was the case, then the golden gourd martial spirit was too arrogant. Lin Muyu shook her head and checked Buhai's body. She found the emblem of the Hall of Chivalry's Grand Chess user. This guy was actually a Grand Chess user? It seemed that the power of the House of Chivalry had once again infiltrated the territory of Lanyan City. No matter what, he had to return to Lanyan City and see Qinin first. By the time Lin Muyu arrived at the outskirts of the city, it was already late at night. The walls of Lanyan City had been repaired, but the damage caused by the battle 3 years ago could still be vaguely seen. Lin Muyu looked up at the cracks and burn marks on the walls. She couldn't help but think of the battle 3 years ago. Chu Huai had died in battle outside these walls, and Zhenxiang had died right on top of these walls. Standing there silently, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with sadness and excitement. She was about to see the girl she deeply loved. 3 years later, what would Qinin look like now? As he approached the walls, several imperial guards immediately raised their bows and aimed at him. "Who are you? Don't you know that entering Lanyan City at night is prohibited?" Lin Muyu looked up at him. She didn't know him, so she said, "Who is in charge here?" "I am in charge." A centurion looked at her with contempt and said, "What's wrong? Do you know me?" "No, I don't know you." Lin Muyu smiled. "Your rank is still too low. I want to ask, who is your superior?" "Lord Baiyu, the centurion of the Imperial Guards." "What's wrong?" "What about my superior?" "Umph." The centurion looked displeased. "Are you a spy from the Iha Kingdom? How dare you ask about our Imperial Guards? Someone, open the door and bring him to me." "Yes." A small door on the side of the main gate quickly opened, and a dozen cavalrymen quickly mounted their horses and rushed out. However, Lin Muyu didn't escape. Facing the light of the torches, she looked at the crowd with a smile in her eyes. "I didn't expect that after 3 years, the Imperial Guards would treat me like this." The centurion looked angry. "You speak as if you are the king of heaven. Who are you? If you don't tell me, I'll kill you. Admit it. Are you a spy from the Iha Kingdom?" "No." "You still won't admit it." "I won't admit it." "You're asking for death." "I want to live." "You bastard. You're shameless." While the two of them were arguing, a group of people suddenly came from afar. The general at the front shouted in a low voice, "Who's making a ruckus here in the middle of the night? Don't you know the rules of the capital?" The centurion quickly turned around and cupped his fists. "Deputy Commander, this kid insisted on barging into the capital at night. He even inquired about the names of our high-ranking generals. I suspect that this kid is a spy from the Iha Kingdom. Deputy Commander, please make a judgment." The deputy commander was none other than Zhang Wei. With a face full of beard, he rode forward with a long saber in hand. He looked down at Lin Muyu and said in a dignified voice, "Kid, raise your head. Let me see your face." "Old Zhang, long time no see." Lin Muyu slowly raised his head. His handsome face had a bright smile under the flickering light of the torches. "Ah." Zhang Wei trembled and fell from his horse. He scrambled to his feet and knelt on one knee, cupping his fists. "Master. Master Lin Muyu. Is that really you?" Lin Muyu helped Zhang Wei up and smiled. "Why? Are you suspecting that I'm a ghost? Zhang Wei gently grabbed Lin Muyu's arm and couldn't help laughing. No, you're not a ghost. Sir, you're really not dead. Heavens, this is great news. Shoo. Lin Muyu whispered. Don't spread this news. Take me into the city first. I want to find a place to take a hot bath. Also, help me find a set of clothes that fits me. It would be best if it's the Imperial Guard's armor. Yes. Zhang Wei smiled and cupped his fists. Although Lanyan City no longer has the Imperial Guard, there are many Imperial Guard's armor in the armory. Sir, please follow me. There's a place to take a bath in the Imperial Guard's camp. The sky was filled with stars. Lin Muyu fetched a horse and rode it with Zhang Wei on Tongtian Street. Sir, aren't you going to see His Highness first? Zhang Wei was still excited. Did you know? Everyone thought you were dead. His Highness Princess Shi and Head Deacon Chu Yao have been thinking about you day and night. Now that they see that you're still alive, they'll definitely be overjoyed. Why don't Old Zhang take you to see Her Highness before she sleeps? Old Zhang is now the Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guard and has the authority to see His Highness directly. No. Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. I've been in a coma for almost 3 years. Do you think my dirty appearance is suitable to see His Highness? Zhang Wei couldn't help but laugh. He scratched his head. I almost forgot. Old Zhang is a boorish person and doesn't understand things like love. If Sir wants to see His Highness, you must dress up. Lin Muyu also blushed. Look at what you're saying. Not long after, they entered the Imperial Army's main camp. Lin Muyu went to take a bath while Zhang Wei stood guard outside the door and helped him prepare a set of Imperial Guard armor. After washing up, Lin Muyu shaved his beard and hastily cut his hair a few times. Although it was messy, he still looked outstanding. When Lin Muyu put on the armor, even Zhang Wei could not help but exclaim, "This set of armor looks as though it was made for Milord." Haha, Lin Muyu said. Old Zhang, tell me what happened in the past 3 years. Zhang Wei nodded. Sir, after you were killed by Luolan, Lanyan City was massacred. More than 1 million people died. Then, Princess Shi mobilized 50,000 soldiers from Qihai City and 100,000 soldiers from the Demon Clan to attack Lanyan City. After that, Muyu City and Qihai City both sent their troops. The Iha Kingdom's troops retreated again and again. After a great defeat at Wugu City, they returned to Lingnan. Now the 6 provinces of Lingbei are all within our empire's territory. Oh, Lin Muyu murmured. Su Muyun and Tanglan are finally willing to send their troops? Zhang Wei smiled awkwardly. Sir, please be careful with your words. Now Duke Yun and Duke Lan are the 2 most important ministers in the empire. More than 80% of the empire's military power is in their hands. Even though Her Highness is the Empress, she has very little real power. It can be said that the Qin Empire now belongs to Tang and Su. Old Zhang will only say this once. Otherwise, General Feng will scold me again. Alright, let's go see Xiaoyin. Yes. In Zetian Palace Hall, the candlelight swayed slowly in the breeze. Many files were piled up on the Empress's table. Qin Yin was kneeling there with a tired look on her face. She was flipping through the memorials one by one as she slowly reviewed them. Su Muyin was sitting on the other side, holding a military book in his hand, and was studying it with his eyes narrowed. An attendant at the side said softly, Your Highness, after the reconstruction of the Tianshu army, the position of commander has been left undecided. The Ministry of War has submitted a request to decide on the candidate for the commander of the Tianshu army. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and asked, Grandfather, who do you think is the best candidate to be the commander of the Tianshu army? Su Muyin frowned and said, Let Su Long be it. He is the deputy commander of the Iron Blade army. He is good at fighting and has great strategy. Qin Yin said, Actually, in terms of strategy and ability, Luo Yu, Feng Shi, and Qin Yan are several times better than Su Long. I feel that one of them can be chosen to lead the Tianshu army. After all, General Su Long is currently the deputy commander of the Iron Blade army. As I said before, Xiaoyin, you don't have to worry about the affairs of the army. Su Muyin smiled and said, Grandfather will arrange everything for you. Don't worry, I'm tired and will go to sleep first. Guards, protect Her Highness well. Don't let anything happen to her. Outside the door, a group of guards from Muyu City cupped their fists and said, Yes, Duke Yun. Qin Yin sat there blankly, and her eyes flickered with humiliation and helplessness. Not long after Su Muyin left, an attendant knocked on the door and said, Your Highness, the Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, General Zhang Wei, requests an audience. Zhang Wei. Qin Yin was stunned and said, Invite Sir Zhang Wei in. Yes. Zhang Wei pushed open the door and entered. Behind him was a general wearing a white robe. However, he had lifted his white cloak to cover his face, so it was impossible to tell who he was. Your Highness. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said with a smile, Congratulations, Your Highness. Qin Yin slowly stood up. Ever since Zhang Wei had entered, she had not looked at him at all. Her gaze had been fixed on the person behind Zhang Wei. He was dressed in the armor of the Imperial Guard, which she had not seen in a long time. Although it looked ordinary and unremarkable, the hilt of a sword protruding from the cloak behind him was incomparably familiar. At this moment, Qin Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. She stepped on a pile of memorials and walked down the stairs in a daze. She murmured, Can you lift your cloak and let me see? Lin Muyu gently lifted the cloak, and a handsome face appeared in front of Qin Yin. He still had that familiar bright smile on his face. Xiaoyin, how are you? Chapter 325. Qin Yin stood there in a daze as if she had been petrified. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at Lin Muyu as tears flowed from her eyes. She shook her head slowly. It's not true. It's definitely not true. You are not him at all, right? Lin Muyu naturally understood the pain that Qin Yin had suffered for 3 years. He also understood that she could not believe that it was him in front of her. He smiled and said softly, Xiaoyin, it's really me. I'm not dead. If you don't believe me, look. He opened his hand and the golden gourd martial spirit slowly appeared in his palm and rotated gently. A few battle spirit energy lingered around his arm. He smiled and said, I slept for 3 years and spent 3 years to heal the wound caused by Luo Lan. It was the self-healing ability of the profound spirit ruler that saved me. Do you believe me now? You. Qin Yin looked at him with tears streaming down her face. The next moment, she opened her arms and threw herself into his arms. She cried loudly, I thought I would never see you again in this life. I thought you really didn't want Xiaoyin anymore. Lin Muyu gently stroked her back and said, How could that be? I said I would definitely come back to see you. Xiaoyin, don't cry. I'm fine now. Qin Yin shook her head forcefully, but she still could not stop crying. It was as if she wanted to vent all the pain and longing she had for the past 3 years. Her tears wetted Lin Muyu's neck and collar. There aren't many armors left for the royal guards. You've ruined this one with your tears. I'm afraid there won't be any more left. Lin Muyu said softly with a smile. Qin Yin wiped her tears and looked at him with teary eyes. She smiled through her tears and said, Then the Ministry of Works can continue to forge armors for the royal guards. It's not like there's no more material. But the royal guards are all gone. Lin Muyu murmured. Yes, the Imperial Guard is gone. Qin Yin said with a sense of loss. Xiaoyin, you are now the Empress and no longer the little princess. You can't keep relying on me. That's not good. Lin Muyu said as she patted her back. However, Qin Yin still wrapped her snow-white arms around his neck and said lovingly, But I'm worried that once I let go, you'll disappear and everything in front of me will just be a beautiful dream. I won't. Lin Muyu said lightly, Since I'm back, I won't leave. I'll always be by your side to accompany you and protect you. Don't worry. At this moment, a group of accompanying officials looked at them with astonished gazes. Many of these people were newly promoted officials and didn't know Lin Muyu at all. Naturally, they were also very astonished. The high and mighty Empress Qin Yin actually threw herself into a man's arms. This was really an unprecedented event. Qin Yin left Lin Muyu's embrace, but still firmly held onto his left hand, as if she was really afraid that he would suddenly disappear into thin air. Zhang Wei coughed and said with a smile, I just received a letter from Commander Yu. Commander Feng Jixing and Commander Wei Chou have already conquered Dragon Rocky Mountain. and will be returning to the city tomorrow. Lin Muyu was pleasantly surprised and said, Wei Chou didn't die either. Yes, 3 years ago, the Longdan army camp was established as one of the imperial legions. General Wei Chou is currently the commander of the Longdan army camp. Luo Yu, Qin Yan, and Feng Shi were appointed as deputy commanders. That's really great. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Everyone is fine. Oh yes, where's Xiaoxi? Qin Yin said with a smile. Xiao Yin and Tang Zhen are leading 50,000 soldiers to guard the demon-subduing pass. However, they should be making a trip back to the imperial capital tomorrow. You don't have to run over to the demon-subduing pass. Yes. Lin Muyu looked at the group of courtiers in front of her and frowned. Qin Yin immediately understood and raised her hand. All of you can withdraw. I have something to say to General Zhang Wei. Everyone took their leave. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Xiaoyin, don't announce that I'm still alive for the time being. Why? Qin Yin was surprised and opened her small mouth to say, Brother you are ranked first on the nation guarding monument. Since you're not dead, you should announce it to the world. Moreover, Xiaoyin really needs you right now. It won't do if only General Feng supports me in the imperial court. Zhang Wei also said, That's right, my lord. Her Highness's royal authority is almost a mere figurehead. There are very few people in the imperial court who are Her Highness's people. If you also avoid the imperial court, then Her Highness will really be alone and helpless. I don't want to avoid it. Lin Muyu shook her head, saying, It's just that think about it. Tang Lan's grandson, Tang Bin, died in my hands. How could Tang Lan just let it go? Moreover, Tang Lan now has a large army and occupies half of the Qin Empire. If I suddenly appear at this time, Tang Lan will definitely attack me. I heard that Xiang Yu has already stepped into the Saint Realm. In this case, I may not be Xiang Yu's match. Then what do you want to do? Qin Yin asked. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Find a chance to announce it to the world. Let everyone know that I'm not dead. This way, Tang Lan won't have a chance to make things difficult for me. That will be the imperial court meeting. Qin Yin's eyes were like water as she said softly, The imperial court meeting that happens once every 7 days will be held the day after tomorrow. At that time, many officials will gather and Zetian Palace will welcome at least 1,000 important officials. At that time, I will announce that Brother Yu is still alive. How about that? All right, let's do that. Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin and asked, What does Xiaoyin plan to do for me? Qin Yin moved her lips and said, Confer me the title of General-in-Chief and appoint me as the commander of the Imperial Army. Help me rebuild the Imperial Army and stay by Xiaoyin's side. How about that? Lin Muyu lowered her head to look at Qin Yin and smiled as if she had seen through her thoughts. Qin Yin couldn't help but blush and said, Why are you looking at me like that? I just want you to stay by my side. Lin Muyu smiled again and said, Big Brother Feng is already by your side as the commander of the Imperial Army. At this time, Xiaoyin needs someone to charge and break through enemy lines and seize land for you. This person is probably me. So there's no need to say anything more. If we can really expand the Longdan army camp, I'm willing to lead the troops to conquer Iha country. But you just came back to my side. Qin Yin pouted and said with a bit of rebuke, I know. Lin Muyu sat by her side again and said, I also want to stay by your side. Who wouldn't like to have good wine, good food, and beautiful women by our side every day? Zhang Wei nodded repeatedly and said, I like it too. You are not allowed to speak. I'm not talking to you. Lin Muyu continued to look at Qin Yin and said, It's just that Xiaoyin is now the empress but has suffered all kinds of grievances. This can't be. Father didn't entrust this to me before he left. So, what Xiaoyin has lost as her brother, I will definitely take it all back, inch by inch. Okay. Qin Yin nodded and said, But you still have to accompany me more. It's been 3 years. Xiaoyin misses you. Got it. Zhang Wei asked, Madam, why don't old Zhang return to the Imperial Army camp and you stay and serve the Empress tonight? Qin Yin's face immediately turned red. Lin Muyu was also a little puzzled. This Zhang Wei's words were getting more and more straightforward. How could she say it in a roundabout way? No need. I want to go back to the Holy Temple to sleep. I haven't seen Grandfather Guyang in a long time. Then, Qinin blinked and said, Can Xiaoyin go with you to the Holy Temple? Tonight. I don't want to leave brother you. This? Lin Muyu was a little speechless and said, Old Zhang, think of a way. Zhang Wei grinned and said, In the end, you still have to rely on me. How about this? Your Highness, just say that you are tired and go to Phoenix Perching Hall to change into a guard's uniform and sneak out with us to the Holy Temple. Tomorrow morning, you can rush back to Zetian Hall without anyone knowing. But grandfather's guards will be watching. This Lin Muyu frowned and said, Don't worry, they won't know. Okay. At Phoenix Perching Hall, Qinin went into her bedroom to change. In fact, she just needed to put on the Empress's clothes and the guard's armor. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei secretly swapped Qinin and rode out of Zetian Hall in the night. At night, Tongtian Street was deserted and was no longer as prosperous as it was 3 years ago. Although the shops along the street had been renovated and merchants had moved in, it was still a city that had been baptized by blood, and the people were still living under a cloud of worry. In the distance, the Holy Temple and the Spiritual Medicine Department looked at each other. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be moved. Was Chu Yao in the Spiritual Medicine Department? Qinin saw this and burst into laughter. How about this? After visiting Great Deacon Guyang, I will accompany you to the Spiritual Medicine Department to visit Great Deacon Chu Yao. She will definitely be wild with joy when she sees that you is still alive. Okay. Lin Muyu rode his horse slowly to the front of the Holy Temple. The deep pit where Lei Hong died in battle had already been filled up. Fallen leaves fell on the street with the wind, and it looked exceptionally desolate. Dismounting from his horse, Lin Muyu looked at the Holy Temple from afar and suddenly felt a pang of bitterness. He suddenly remembered what Lei Hong had said to him. From the day he entered the Holy Temple, his soul was branded with the Holy Temple. Therefore, no matter how high he flew or how far he went, he would eventually return to the Holy Temple. At this moment, Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Temple again. It was as if his fate had been predetermined long ago. Looking up at the golden words on the Holy Temple, Lin Muyu sighed and clenched his fists. Zhang Wei rode forward and said to the two guards, Deputy Commander of the Imperial Guards, Zhang Wei, requests an audience with Great Deacon Guyang. The guards said respectfully, Sir Zhang Wei, I'm afraid the Great Deacon is already asleep. Then wake him up. Zhang Wei smiled slightly. Tell him that I, Zhang Wei, have great news to tell him. The guards were startled, then smiled and said, If that's the case, Sir Zhang Wei, please wait in the guest hall. This subordinate will go and wake the Great Deacon up to see you. The two behind. My subordinates, can they come in together? Of course, please come in. Chapter 326. Dong. Dong. The walking stick hit the stone floor rhythmically. The Sinao Guyang walked step by step towards the guest hall with the help of a temple guard. He said, What the hell is Zhang Wei doing? What kind of great news could he have to tell me? He must have come to the temple to swindle wine again. This guy. Zhang Wei stepped forward and cupped his fists with a smile. Great Deacon Guyang, it's been a long time. Guyang looked at Zhang Wei with blurred eyes. Oh, it really is Lord Zhang Wei. Haha. Zhang Wei's eyes swept across and signaled. I want to speak to Great Deacon Guyang alone. You can all leave. The few temple guards cupped their fists and left the guest hall. Guyang looked at Zhang Wei and said, Say it, what good news is it? I brought someone for you to see, hee. Zhang Wei pointed at Lin Muyu behind him and said with a smile, The surprise I was talking about is him. Oh. Guyang walked towards Lin Muyu step by step with his walking stick and asked, Lord, you are? Lin Muyu lifted his hand and lifted the royal guard's hood. His handsome face was filled with a bright smile. Grandpa Guyang, it's been 3 years. Ah, you. Guyang instantly recognized Lin Muyu, and his face was filled with disbelief. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He raised his hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword with a dang sound. The image of a golden gourd appeared around the blade. He smiled and said, Don't ask me if I'm alive or not. I've been dead for the past 3 years, but 2 days ago, I was resurrected. Guyang was so excited that his whole body was trembling. He threw away his walking stick and went forward to touch Lin Muyu's face. He was so excited that he couldn't even speak clearly. It's really you. It's really you is back. Great, great. Lin Muyu smiled. Grandpa Guyang, it's really me who came back to see you. How have you been these 3 years? Guyang was already in tears. Once the great deacon died, the entire divine temple fell apart. We spent a whole 3 years to rebuild the divine temple. But the people have changed. The divine temple is no longer as glorious and prosperous as it was in the past. Lin Muyu held onto his arm and said, Don't worry, temple will rise again, as long as we have hope in our hearts. Yes. Guyang said. It's good that you is back. This old man, can finally abdicate my position. From today onwards, you will be the great deacon of the temple. That won't do. Qin spoke. She lifted her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. She smiled and said, Great Deacon Guyang, brother Yu has just returned to my side. There are still many things that I need him to do. You can't just take him away from me like this. Guyang hurriedly cupped his fists and saluted. Greetings, Your Highness. No need to be so courteous. Qin stepped forward and helped Guyang up. She said, Great Deacon Guyang is an old and meritorious minister. Greeting me like this is too much. Please get up. Guyang said, Why did Your Highness come to the divine temple with you? As soon as he said this, Guyang thought about how Qin and Lin Muyu were actually a pair of lovers. He couldn't help but feel that his question was unnecessary. He immediately smiled and said, This old minister will immediately arrange a room for Your Highness and you. Qin smiled and nodded. Arrange a room next to each other. Also, don't let anyone know that we are coming to the divine temple. It's not time yet. This old minister understands. Then we will go to the spiritual medicine department to pay our respects to Sister Chu Yao. All right. In the middle of the night, the lotus pond in the spiritual medicine department was sparkling. The fragrance of lotus wafted in the air. Suddenly, ripples appeared on the surface of the water. A beautiful girl dressed in the clothes of a great deacon leaped onto the water. Her feet were shrouded in dense fighting spirit, preventing her from sinking into the water. Step by step, she walked on the water, cultivating the heart and cultivating qi. These were the realms that Chu Yao pursued. Only when her heart was completely calm could she walk on the water. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. After Chu Yao became the great deacon of the spiritual medicine department, she did not slack off in her cultivation. She had already stepped into the heaven realm half a year ago. With this level of cultivation, not to mention the spiritual medicine department, even in the divine temple, she was already considered outstanding. In the distance, 3 figures slowly approached. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Sister Chu Yao. Ah! Chu Yao was stunned. This voice was so familiar. She had softly called her name in her dreams countless times, but now she heard it in reality. Chu Yao even felt like she was dreaming. Sister Chu Yao, turn around. Lin Muyu was still on the shore. She said with a smile. Chu Yao stared blankly, her mind in chaos. Now that she was sure this was real, her heart was no longer able to calm down. Naturally, she couldn't control the water any longer. Her delicate body gently fell into the pond, and she let out a startled, ah! Lin Muyu reacted quickly. The moment the water covered Chu Yao's ankles, the golden gourd vine flew out and supported Chu Yao's body. Then, Chu Yao stepped lightly and followed the gourd vine to the shore. She stared at him dumbfounded. I'm not dreaming, am I? Qin chuckled beside her. If this is a dream, brother Yu will not appear with me. Chu Yao blushed. Chu Yao greets Your Highness. You're welcome, Sister Chu Yao. Chu Yao immediately looked at Lin Muyu again. What's going on? Tell me this is real, quick. Lin Muyu did not speak. She directly walked forward and held Chu Yao in her arms. She said, During the 3 years I was in the state of death, I was always worried that something would happen to you and Xiaoyin. You would be killed by the beasts of Iha country. Now I see that you are all right. This is really great. Chu Yao already had tears in her eyes. She said in a trembling voice, I know. You met Luolan because he wanted to go back to Lanyan City to find me. I almost killed you. This is not your fault, Lin Muyu murmured. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Luolan for killing the innocent despite being a god. With that, Lin Muyu let go of Chu Yao and said with a smile, "It seems that Sister Chu Yao has not slacked off in the past 3 years. Your cultivation has improved a lot." "Don't make fun of me." Chu Yao blushed and said, "Compared to you and Her Highness Yin, my cultivation is not even worth mentioning." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "Head Deacon Chu Yao is too humble. You are the head deacon of the spiritual medicine department, but in terms of combat power, I Zhang Wei may not be your match." Lin Muyu laughed loudly. "Old Zhang, you rely on the courage of a soldier to make a living. It's not the same. Although your strength has not improved much in the past 3 years, I can fight 10 of you." Zhang Wei was speechless. "I don't want to talk to Lady Lin Muyu anymore." After reuniting after a long time, Chu Yao ordered a banquet to be held in the spiritual medicine department and invited everyone to drink. Thus, they only dispersed in the wee hours of the morning. After agreeing to meet again, Zhang Wei returned to the Imperial Guards camp, while Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin back to the Divine Palace. Qin Yin's yearning for Lin Muyu was too deep, to the extent that she could not leave him at all. There was no other way. That night, Lin Muyu could only sleep with his clothes on, while Qin Yin slept at the side, hugging one of Lin Muyu's arms, as if she was afraid that he would fly away. The moonlight shone on the room like water, landing on Qin Yin's snow-white sleeping face. Lin Muyu turned to look at her, and suddenly felt her heart brighten. The 3 years of painful struggle seemed to be for this moment of sweetness and happiness. As long as she was by his side, all the pain and suffering he had suffered were nothing. The next morning, after washing up early, she sent Qin Yin back to Zetian Palace. Lin Muyu was still in the Imperial Guard's attire. Although there were no more Imperial Guards in the palace, and after the battle in Lanyan City, there were only a few of the 200 Imperial Guards left. Perhaps only Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xia Hosang and a few others were left. As for Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, Zhuge Yun and the others, they had all died for the country, which made people sigh. There was no morning court that day. It was not until dusk that news came from afar that Tang Xiaoxi had led 2,000 National Garrison Army troops to Lanyan City. Lin Muyu did not show up and had been hiding in the back hall of Zetian Palace to cultivate. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had left behind a broken sword for Lin Muyu to refine. However, no matter how hard Lin Muyu tried, she was still one step away from refining the sword. It was as if the sword was not made of ordinary iron. Qin Yin personally went to welcome Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu waited for a long time. Finally, a sound came from the front hall. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had returned. She also heard the voices of Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Xia Hosang. They had all returned. The people from the House of Chivalry are too cunning. There is no end to killing them. They are like cockroaches, Feng Jixing said hatefully. Wei Chou said, "It doesn't matter. We'll take it one step at a time." Tang Xiaoxi said, "You can still go around conquering the House of Chivalry. It's so lively. Why don't you think about me? I've been staying in the Demon Subduing Pass for a few months. I'm bored to death. By the way, Xiaoyin, when are we going to go hunting?" "Wait. I'll give you a surprise first." "Oh, what surprise?" "Stand still and don't move." Qin Yin smiled and flashed out of the screen. Then she waved her hand and said, "Let's go into the back hall. Look who this is." The crowd walked in one after another. But in the next moment, they were all petrified. They stared at the front with their mouths agape. It was as if they could no longer speak. Lin Muyu was wearing the Imperial Guard's armor. He stood there straight. His expression had not changed. It was as if he was still the same Lin Muyu from 3 years ago. Looking at the crowd, he cupped his fists and smiled. "Hello everyone. I Lin Muyu am back." "You?" Feng Jixing was dumbfounded. His eyes instantly turned red. "Is it really you?" Wei Chou stood there in a daze. "Commander." "Xia Hosang, sir." Only Tang Xiaoxi walked straight forward. Her beautiful eyes were filled with undisguised love. She asked, "Is it really Mu?" Lin Muyu smiled. "Xiaoxi, you've grown even more beautiful." Tang Xiaoxi immediately knew that this was him. No one else would talk to her like this. she cried and said, Mu, I have a gift for you. What gift? Tang Xiaoxi stepped forward. She stood on her tiptoes and held his face. A fragrant kiss landed on Lin Muyu's lips. It was just a light touch, but this was Tang Xiaoxi's style. She dared to love and hate. After the forceful kiss, her face was already red. She took several steps back and looked at Lin Muyu with a burning gaze. Mu, did you miss me? Yes. Lin Muyu wailed in his heart. What should he do? Xiao Yin was watching from the side. Would she beat him to death? Qin Yin bit her red lips. Her beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. She was speechless. Tears flowed down her face. Xiaoxi, this fellow. I haven't even. And she beat me to it. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have held back last night. Just as the two girls were immersed in their own thoughts, Feng Jixing had already rushed over. He hugged Lin Muyu and laughed. You really didn't die? It's true, brother Feng. Lin Muyu laughed. You didn't expect to see me again, did you? Yes. Feng Jixing's eyes were red. I thought I would only see you on the nation-guarding monument in the future. Tell me, how did you survive? Someone said he saw you being killed by Luolan. What happened? Lin Muyu was sad. But Chu Huaiping, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong could only see them on the nation-guarding monument. Chapter 327. Lin Muyu recounted the process of Acatosaurus saving its master, absorbing the spiritual power of the sun, moon, and stars to reshape its heart meridian and come back to life. Naturally, she omitted the part about the 7 luminaries demon emperor. After all, the 7 luminaries demon emperor was an existence that had been missing for tens of thousands of years. Nobody knew how many people knew about it. After listening to everything, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Tang Xiaoxi, and the rest stared at Lin Muyu with their eyes wide open. It was as if they were listening to a story. As the plot changed, they became increasingly perturbed and tactful. When Lin Muyu finished speaking, Feng Jixing sighed and said, It's the fortune of the empire and the Qin family that you is still alive. Qin Yi nodded and silently agreed with Feng Jixing's words. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, It's already dusk. I'm so hungry. As the host, shouldn't you, Xiao Yin, show your hospitality? Qin Yin smiled and called out softly, Come in. A maid walked in and said respectfully, Your Highness, please give me your orders. Ask the imperial kitchen to prepare a banquet. A banquet for 12 people will do, but the dishes must be exquisite. Bring the best wine over and prepare it immediately. Yes, Your Highness. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and stuck out her tongue. She smiled and said, Is everyone satisfied now? Feng Jixing laughed and said, Since Your Highness has brought out the best wine from Zetian Palace, we naturally have no objections. Lin Muyu leaned back in her chair and asked with a smile, A lot must have happened while I was unconscious. Oh yes, how did Brother Feng and Wei Chou go to Dragon Rocky Mountain to destroy the House of Chivalry? Everything is going well. Feng Jixing pondered for a while and said, We killed more than 2,000 wanderers, but it's a pity that the great wanderer envoy of the Mansion of Chivalry in Lingnan Province escaped. Bu Hai is a sanctuary expert, so it's a pity that we couldn't kill him. He's a big fish. Bu Hai? Lin Muyu stared blankly for a moment before saying, When I came out of the mountains, I met an old man called Bu Hai, who was also at the Saint Realm. He wanted to snatch my dragon spirit sword, but I killed him in passing. Really? Wei Chou was pleasantly surprised. Sir, did the person you killed hurt his arm? Yes, it's an arrow wound, and the martial soul used is Flame Wolf. Then it's Bu Hai. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said to Qin Yin with a smile, Congratulations, Your Highness. As soon as the commander returned to Lanyan City, he made a great contribution. Bu Hai was Luo Lan's favorite disciple, and no one could touch him even a little bit after occupying Dragon Rocky Mountain for so long. Now that you killed him as soon as you appeared, it's enough to deter the rest of the House of Chivalry in the Empire. Yes. Qin Yin's eyes were filled with joy. She looked at Lin Muyu and asked with concern, Bu Hai is at the Saint Realm. Brother Yu, are you hurt? No. Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled. I used the spiritual pulse technique to hide my breath. He thought that I was just a human realm practitioner, so he didn't use his full strength and was defeated by me in one blow. What kind of blow can defeat Buhai, who is at the Saint Realm? Feng Jixing was stunned. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. I comprehended a new martial art called Star Tactics during the 3 years I was in a coma. It's very powerful. If that's the case, Brother Feng will have to learn from you in the future. Feng Jixing was a martial arts fanatic. He looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, but since you can come back alive, the structure of the whole Lanyan city will more or less change. Your Highness, how do you plan to arrange Yu's title and military position? Qinin said, I will announce the news that Brother Yu is still alive during the court meeting tomorrow. Then, I will confer Brother Yu the title of general and the commander of the Longdan army camp. I will expand the Longdan army camp and turn the Longdan army camp into a real regular army of the empire. At that time, Grandfather and Duke Lan will definitely not stand idly by. So, General Feng and Xiaoxi must help me at that time. Yes, I understand. Not long after, good wine and delicacies were served one by one in the back hall of the Zetian Palace. They also invited Chu Yao, Qin Yan and the others. A group of people sat around the table. It was a reunion dinner that they hadn't had in a long time. They ate and drank until late at night. Feng Jixing, Zhang Weichou, and the others took their leave one by one. As for Lin Muyu, she rested in the side hall for the night. Because the matter tomorrow morning was very tricky, they had to discuss it as early as possible. The next day, the sun rose high in the sky. All the officials came to the court. The bell outside the Zetian Palace reverberated. A group of civil and military officials climbed the 120 gilded steps and entered the Zetian Palace step by step. Su Muyun and Tang Lan were among them. Moreover, these officials who were ranked as the 2 dukes of the empire were all crowded around. Under Su Muyun's direct subordinates were Su Yu, Su Long, and a group of generals from Muyu City. On Tang Lan's left and right were Xiang Yu, Tang Lu, Tang Tian, Tang Wei, and the others. The power was balanced. Fortunately, they were evenly matched. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who had the final say in Lanyan City. In the crowd, a general wearing a fiery red armor had a hint of helplessness in his eyes. Du Hai was the head of the 7 immortal generals of the empire. However, during the Battle of Lanyan City, the Tianchong army that he belonged to was chased far away from Lanyan City by the soldiers of the Iha nation. In the end, he was convicted of the crime of failing to protect the city. Fortunately, Tang Lan and Su Muyun were somewhat fearful of this general. Otherwise, Du Hai's rank of general would have been gone. Currently, the Qin Empire had 6 generals in order: Xiang Yu, Feng Jixing, Du Hai, Min Yulin, Su Yu, and Tang Lu. Xiang Yu was Tang Lan's subordinate, Feng Jixing was loyal to Qin Yin, Du Hai was neutral, and Min Yulin was the general guarding the northern border of Muyu City. He could be considered Su Muyun's subordinate. This also meant that between Tang Lan and Su Muyun, whoever could rope in Du Hai would have more say in the imperial court. General Du Hai, how have you been recently? Have you gotten better? Su Muyun bowed from afar and asked. Du Hai also returned the bow respectfully and said, much better. Thank you for your concern, Duke Yin. Du Hai is a martial artist with thick skin and rough flesh. A small illness can't do anything to me. That's true. Su Muyun smiled and said, I heard that General Du Hai had already stepped into the sanctuary realm 2 years ago. It is indeed the Empire's fortune. I hope that General can continue to be loyal to the Empire and Her Majesty, the Empress Qin Yin. Of course. This general has learned his lesson. Duke Yin, this way please. Let's enter the palace. All right. In the distance, Tang Lan gently stroked his white beard and said nothing. Xiang Yu, who was beside him, raised the corner of his mouth and said in a low voice, this old fellow Du Hai, he actually has the face to come back to Lanyan City. If it were me, I'm afraid that I would have hung myself on the southeast branch long ago. As a sanctuary realm expert, Du Hai could naturally hear Xiang Yu's words. His eyes turned cold, but he couldn't help but act up. That's right, Xiang Yu was actually right. When the court meeting was about to begin, nearly 1,000 officials gathered in the main hall of Zetian Palace. Su Muyun and Tang Lan were the leaders of the officials, followed by Tang Xiaoxi, Tang Lu, Tang Wei, and other marquises, followed by Feng Jixing, Du Hai, Xiangyu, Su Yu, and other generals. When all the officials were ready, an official placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, walked to the front of the palace with an imposing manner, and announced loudly, "Her Majesty the Empress has arrived." Everyone turned solemn, and looked over at the same time. However, what everyone didn't expect was that Qin Yin wasn't wearing the custom-made phoenix robe of the Empress today. Instead, she was simply wearing the clothes of a princess from before. The laurel crown on her head shone with a dignified radiance, and a dark blue cloak draped behind her. A scabbard hung from her waist, and her hand was placed on the hilt of her sword. She looked beautiful and dignified as she looked at everyone. "Greetings, Your Highness." All the officials greeted and bowed in unison. "Dispense with the formalities." Qin Yin gently raised her hand and smiled. "Today, I have a piece of good news to announce." Su Muyin smiled. "Xiao Yin, what's the good news?" "Grandfather, are the martyrs of the empire who died in battle on the nation-guarding monument considered heroes?" Qin Yin asked. Su Muyin was stunned. He cupped his fists and bowed. "Those who died in the line of duty for the empire are naturally heroes. If the martyrs on the nation-guarding monument managed to escape from that nightmare with a narrow escape, are they still considered heroes?" "Yes, of course they are," Su Muyin said resolutely. "All right then, let me introduce someone to everyone today." Qin Yin gently turned around, smiled, and said to the side hall, "Come, Brother Yu." "Brother Yu?" Su Muyin was stunned. Su Yu revealed a trace of joy. "Could it be that Yu is not dead?" Du Hai was shocked. Xiangyu stared coldly at the side hall. There, two maids opened the curtain, and a young general in the armor of the Imperial Guards walked out. His handsome face was calm as he stared at Qin Yin in the distance. He walked over step by step and stood in front of the officials. He turned around and cupped his fists at the officials. "Lin Muyu is lucky to be alive. Greetings, everyone." The crowd was instantly in an uproar. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Some were happy, some were shocked, but most of them were anxious. Lin Muyu was the first hero of the nation-guarding monument. Since he did not die, he must have had a meteoric rise. It's really Lin Muyu. That's right, it's him. 3 years ago, Lin Muyu was rumored to have been killed by Luo Lan. He actually did not die. The emperor's godson did not die and escaped everything. The empire is fortunate. Quiet down. Qin Yin walked down the steps and stood beside Lin Muyu. When the crowd quieted down, she looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Brother Yu narrowly escaped death. He died in the dragon crystal and was unconscious for 3 years. In the end, he was awakened by some mysterious rebirth power. So, I plan to put him in an important position. Does anyone have any objections?" Tang Lan frowned and did not say anything. Su Muyun's eyes were calm. He did not plan to speak either. Xiangyu cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, the various corps in Lanyan City have been established and there are no more empty positions. Why don't Lord Lin Muyu rebuild the Imperial Guards and take up the post of commander of the Imperial Guards?" "No." Qin Yin shook her head lightly and said, "Men, bring the late emperor's posthumous edict." The late emperor's edict? Everyone was stunned. No one knew that the late Emperor Qinjin had left a posthumous edict. Chapter 328. An official slowly walked into the main hall with a golden scroll in his hand. He respectfully held the posthumous edict and bowed to Qin Yin. Qin Yin nodded. "Read." The official immediately opened the posthumous edict and said in a clear voice, "If we encounter any mishaps during this trip, please do not panic. The thousands of years of foundation of the Qin Empire cannot be buried in the hands of traitors. If we do not return, we will appoint Qin Yin as the great Qin Empire's monarch and command the world. We will also confer the title of Dubhe monarch to Lin Muyu, who will be in charge of all military and political affairs in Dubhe province. Our adopted son will be treated as our own, and all officials are not to disobey." Lin Muyu was stunned. She looked at Qin Yin, as if doubting the authenticity of this posthumous edict. Qin Yin took the posthumous edict from the official and unfolded it to Lin Muyu. Her beautiful face was filled with sorrow as she said, "Big Brother Yu, you should recognize Imperial Father's handwriting, right? The words on the posthumous edict were smooth and full of vigor, exuding an aura that seemed to be able to penetrate through the paper. Indeed, this was indeed Qin Jin's calligraphy. In terms of calligraphy, Qin Jin could be considered to be among the top 10 in the empire. It was not that easy to forge it. Qin Yin's eyes were slightly moist as she murmured, "Big brother Yu, we found one of Imperial Father's personal guards who escaped in Dubhe province. He said before Imperial Father died, he said that his greatest regret in life was that he had never looked at you as a father would look at his son. This was his regret, so he wrote this edict to make it up to you." Lin Muyu's nose turned sour. She nodded and said, "I understand." At this moment, one of the officials cupped his fists and spoke. It was Tang Lu of the Tang family. He looked at Qin Yin with a resolute gaze and said, "Your Highness, as the saying goes, outsiders cannot be conferred the title of king. His Majesty's surname is Qin, while Lin Muyu's surname is Lin. Furthermore, even if Lin Muyu's contributions are great, it is not great enough to be conferred the title of king. Therefore, this official believes that conferring the title of king on Lin Muyu is somewhat inappropriate." Qin Yin looked at him calmly and asked, "Do you have any other objections?" In the crowd, many officials cast their gazes at Su Muyun. Hence, Su Muyun solemnly said, "Your Highness, although this is a posthumous edict of the late emperor, when the late emperor wrote this edict, he didn't know that there would be so many changes in the empire, nor did he know about morality and the ambition of the country. Times have changed, and there are many things waiting to be done in the empire. It's really inappropriate to confer the title of king at this time. It goes against the will of the people." On the other side, Tang Luan also cupped his fists and said, "I also think that the conferment of Dubhe is inappropriate. Moreover, Dubhe province is currently controlled by Duke Yun. If Lin Muyu is conferred the title of Dubhe, I'm afraid that Duke Yun will be displeased." Su Muyan looked at Tang Luan with a piercing gaze, but he didn't say anything. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. For the first time, she finally understood how tough it was for Qin Yin to be the empress. Among all the officials, there were almost none who were on Qin Yin's side. At this moment, Feng Jixing frowned and said, "Your Highness, since all the officials think that conferring the title of king is inappropriate, why don't we not confer the title of king and directly promote Lin Muyu to the rank of general? With Lin Muyu's outstanding contributions, he is worthy of this title." Tang Xiaoxi also said, "I also think that we should promote Mu to the rank of general." In the crowd, a man wearing a general's robe with 3 gold stars on his collar cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, this general has always been reserved and diligent since I was in charge of the Ministry of War's Minister of War. In July last year, Your Highness personally issued a decree on the restructuring of the Empire's army. All generals who want to be promoted must be measured by their military achievements. Although General Lin Muyu has made outstanding military achievements 3 years ago, he is now the new empress. Therefore, this general believes that promoting General Lin Muyu to any military position now would be in violation of the new decree. I don't know if Your Highness thinks that this general is right or wrong." Shueling Yu. Qin Yin was so angry that her little face turned red. She couldn't wait to immediately remove Shueling from her position as the Minister of War. However, Shueling was Tang Lan's subordinate, so she couldn't do anything about it. It was obvious that Tang Lan wasn't willing to see Lin Muyu wield military power. She didn't even want to give Lin Muyu the opportunity to become a centurion. Qin Yin was a little flustered. She looked at Su Muyin and begged for help. "Grandfather, do you think that Lin Muyu can't even be given a military position? Even if he is restored to the rank of protector of the nation?" Su Muyin cupped his fists and said, "Xiao Yin, since the new decree has been issued, then we must strictly follow it. The Iha Empire is getting restless, and there are plenty of opportunities for you to make military achievements. There is no need to be in such a hurry." Feng Jixing's sword-like brows knitted tightly. He didn't have a single solution. There were close to 1,000 officials in the imperial court, and most of them were probably Su Muyin and Tang Lan's subordinates. The others didn't have the slightest right to speak. Tang Xiaoxi was a little angry. She pointed at the officials behind her and angrily questioned, "You bunch of people, You really don't know shame. Back then, Lin Muyu led the Longdan army camp to fight Long Qianlin's main force. With 15,000 men, he killed nearly 70,000 of Long Qianlin's men. Let me ask you, which one of you can do that? Moreover, Lin Muyu even ordered the Longdan army camp to protect Her Highness Qin Yin and protect the empire's bloodline. Which one of you has made such a contribution? But now, all of you are in high positions, yet you obstruct Lin Muyu from obtaining any military position. I only have one question. Do you all have any shame? Well scolded. Feng Jixing lowered his head and snickered. Princess, she is really awesome. The Minister of War, Xueling, smiled awkwardly at Tang Xiaoxi and said, Princess Shi, we are just following the law. Please forgive us. We have no intention of making things difficult for Lady Lin Muyu. Is that so? Tang Xiaoxi glared at him angrily. The firefox martial soul circled around her graceful body, and it looked like she was about to make a move. Lin Muyu was really afraid that Tang Xiaoxi would get angry in the imperial court. She hurriedly said, Xiaoxi, all right. If you don't want to reward me, then so be it. I don't care. Why don't we do this? Qinin widened her bright eyes and looked at him. Does you have a better idea? Yes. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at the officials. He cupped his fists and smiled humbly. Just like what the Minister of War said, since the law has been issued, it must be followed. Since that's the case, I better return to the temple. It just so happens that Great Deacon Guiyang has decided to give me the position of the Great Deacon of the temple. Tang Tian was stunned. The temple is the foundation of the empire. The position of the Great Deacon is very important. How can it be given to you just like that? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows. I've seen the laws of the empire. The Great Deacon of the temple has always been decided by the emperor. If Xiaoyin wants me to be the Great Deacon of the temple, who would dare to interfere? As he said that, he suddenly pulled out the sword on his back. Dang! He stabbed the sword into the carpet in front of him. Sparks flew. Lin Muyu smiled. The name of the empire is Qin. The emperor of the empire is Qin Yin. As officials, we should understand the way of an official. I am the emperor's godson. I am Xiaoyin's brother. I will protect her well. I will not let her suffer. If anyone is dissatisfied, feel free to come to the temple to test the sharpness of this sword. I will accompany you anytime. Tang Tian was speechless under Lin Muyu's imposing manner. He was dumbfounded and did not know what to say. Tang Lan and Su Muyin frowned and looked at each other. No one said a word. This time, they really could not make things difficult for him. Lin Muyu was following the laws of the empire. No one could defy it. Even if these two Grand Dukes could cover the sky with one hand in Lanyan City, they could not openly defy the laws of the empire. This was the first battle after Lin Muyu's resurrection. He had won. Feng Jixing stood at the bottom of the hall. His face was filled with joy. He laughed softly. You, this rascal. Good job. Wei Chou also smiled. It's great that the ruler is here. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu happily. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. She did not know what to do. At this time, Su Muyin took a step forward and cupped his fists. Congratulations to Lord Lin Muyu for being promoted to the Holy Sanctum's Grand Deacon. You deserve it. Tang Lan also cupped his fists and congratulated him. Soon, all the officials congratulated him. They were indeed a bunch of bootlickers. However, according to the rules, the Longdan army camp and the Imperial Guards were still not allowed to expand. Any expansion of the army required the two Grand Dukes, Tang Lan and Su Muyun. Therefore, Qin Yin could not do anything about it. However, Lin Muyu had obtained the position of Holy Sanctum's Grand Deacon. He could still display his strengths. In the afternoon, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Sanctum. The ceremony to take over as Holy Sanctum's Grand Deacon was also very simple. It was completed hastily. Following that, the Holy Sanctum returned to the situation of one Grand Deacon and 4 deacons. In the Holy Sanctum, a group of people surrounded a round table and stared at each other. Feng Jixing held his teacup and swirled it. He gritted his teeth and said, "This is so infuriating. The two Grand Dukes have been trying so hard to expand the Imperial Guards and Longdan army camp. Do they want to restrict us to 21,000 soldiers forever? To be honest, we can't do anything with this number of soldiers. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu and asked, Mu, can you continue to recruit soldiers in Dragon Rocky Mountain and secretly expand the Longdan army camp? I can consider this. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. I'm just worried that Duke Yun and your grandfather Lan will make things difficult for me. That's why it's inconvenient. Tang Xiaoxi smiled apologetically. Mu, don't be angry at grandfather. Actually, I don't know when grandfather became like this. It's as if power has taken over everything in him. Perhaps Duke Lan has always been like this. Wei Chou smiled mockingly. Lin Muyu muttered and looked at Deacon Guyang. Grandfather Guyang, I've checked. The residences behind the Holy Temple are almost all abandoned. Can we buy these residences? What does Grand Deacon want to do with these residences? Guyang asked in astonishment. Convert these residences into barracks, then build new training grounds, drill grounds, and so on. Lin Muyu smiled. It shouldn't cost too much, right? I just happen to have a large sum of Jin-in coins to spend. It really won't cost much. What are you thinking, you? Guyang asked with a puzzled expression. Lin Muyu continued to ask, how many Holy Temple branches are there in the empire? 1,324. Guyang said with great familiarity. There are about 20 to 50 Holy Temple employees in each branch. That's about it. Lin Muyu nodded. My first order after being promoted to the Great Deacon was for all the Holy Temples in the country to send 8 to 10 of their best to serve in the imperial capital. This way, we will be able to provide close to 10,000 Holy Temple employees. Guyang was stunned. Ah. Feng Jixing smiled and clapped. Good one, you. This move is brilliant. The Holy Temple is not part of the Empire's military. Yu is planning to use the Holy Temple to build an army. That's right. Duke Lan and Duke Yun won't let me have a private army. Then, I will use my status as Grand Deacon to build a 10,000-strong Holy Temple army. Wei Chou will send the generals of the Longdan army camp to the Holy Temple to teach them tactics and formations. I will use the Holy Temple to strengthen the Longdan army camp. This way, Xiaoyin will have more bargaining chips. Yes, Big Brother Feng will definitely support you. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and smiled. Chapter 329. The next day, after waking up early and practicing a set of demonic sonic punches, Lin Muyu still wore the Royal Guard's armor, while Guyang pinned a golden leaf emblem on his armor. This was the emblem of the Temple Grand Deacon, and it was more magnificent than the golden leaf emblem of the Deacon. Behind Guyang, the other 3 deacons of the temple main altar were already waiting for orders. They were Zheng Shanhe, Zhou Yao, and Bai Lifu. Zheng Shanhe's steel shield never left his body. After putting the heavy shield on the horse's back, he cupped his fists and said, Grand Deacon, we are ready. Guyang was surprised. You are going out? Where? The nation guarding monument. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. Grandpa Guyang, I want to see Brother Chu Huaying, Brother Qin Lei, and Grandpa Lei Hong and Chu Chu. That's good too. You should really go to the nation guarding monument. Then we will be going out. The temple's morning training mission will be handed over to Grandpa Guyang. All right. Guyang's old face looked like the peel of a tangerine when he smiled. I am good at the trial missions. When Deacon Lei Hong was alive, I was only in charge of this every day. Then we will be going. Lin Muyu took the reins of a warhorse from the temple guards, flipped on the horse, and left the temple with the 3 deacons. Outside the temple, Feng Jixing was already waiting with Zhang Wei and Xia Hosang. In addition, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao were also there. Why is Xiaoyin here? Lin Muyu couldn't help but ask with a smile. Qin Yin's lips curled up. I have been going to the nation guarding monument every 3 days. Anyway, the government affairs are not as busy as I thought. Grandpa and Master Lan have helped me with many things. Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. I understand. Let's go. Yes. There were about 100 people behind Qin Yin. They were the bodyguards of Muyu City, and they were also sent by Su Muyun to protect the princess. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She really didn't know if Su Muyin was concerned about Qin Yin's safety, but more than that. What Lin Muyu felt was Su Muyin's desire to control Qin Yin. He wanted Qin Yin's every word and action to be under his eyes and ears. This was also the situation that Lin Muyu urgently needed to change. She had to let Qin Yin slowly establish the prestige of the emperor. Outside Lanyan City, there were birdsong and fragrant flowers. The team went straight to Eagle Nest Mountain. At the foot of Eagle Nest Mountain, there was a small grave at the edge of the mountain. There was a tombstone next to it. It was Chu Huayin's and Zhenxiang's graves. Wei Chou and the others left in a hurry, so they could only bury Chu Huayin and Zhenxiang here. After that, they didn't move to the nation-guarding monument, because Qin Yin felt that it was the best for the two of them. The tombstone was covered with moss. Lin Muyu walked forward and gently wiped away the moss with her own hands. Then she pulled off the vines on the tomb. When she pulled off the vines, she found that they were wrapped around a long rusty sword. It was Chu Huaying's sword. It was stabbed into the side of the tomb. It was as if its owner had fallen into a deep sleep and no longer cared about the world. Two bright butterflies fluttered around the blade of the sword, as if they were attracted by something. Lin Muyu took a few steps back and knelt on the ground. She looked at the tombstone silently and said, "Brother Chu, I'm back. I'm sorry that I couldn't take you with me back then." Chu Yao slowly knelt down, tears flowing down her face silently. Qin Yin didn't care about the mud on the ground. She knelt in front of the grave and said softly, "General Chu Huayin, you are the pride of the empire and the pride of the empire's soldiers. I hope that you will never be separated from Miss Zhenxiang in the underworld." Feng Jixing slowly knelt down and said, "Old Chu, rest in peace. Your vengeance. You and I will avenge you. Don't worry, none of the people who made you bleed in the past will have a good ending. This is my promise to you, Feng Jixing." Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, Zheng Shanhe, and the others also knelt down one by one. Although Chu Huayin wasn't buried under the nation-guarding monument, everyone knew that he was the second martyr of the nation-guarding monument. Chu Huayin was even posthumously conferred the title of king a year ago. This was an unimaginable honor. This was probably what Chu Huayin was after, to bring honor to his ancestors. Moreover, the Chu clan was indeed known by everyone because of him. After paying respects to Chu Huayin and Zhenxiang, everyone got on their horses and went to the nation-guarding monument. Along the way, the shade of the trees shone on everyone. Lin Muyu gently held the reins and said, "Brother Feng, is there any news of Zheng Yifan?" "No." Feng Jixing shook his head. There was no news of Zheng Yifan after he left Lanyan City. Originally, we all thought that if there was a rebellion, it would be led by Zheng Yifan. However, we guessed wrong. Zheng Yifan didn't have any intention of rebelling. Instead, it was His Majesty's brother Qin Yi, who came from Lingnan and caused the chaos in Iha Nation. How's the military strength of Iha Nation now? Not bad. Feng Jixing thought for a moment and said, "The spies we planted in Iha Nation for the past 3 years have reported that they have been recruiting new soldiers. Now they have a total military strength of around 500,000, which is comparable to the current military strength of the empire. Moreover, the empire was defeated in Qinling Mountains 2 months ago, so Iha Nation's overall strength might be slightly stronger than ours. What's worse is that Iha Nation has taken over Lingdong Province and Tongtian Province. They will definitely station their troops in these 2 provinces in order to fight the empire again." Lin Muyu clenched her fists with a burning gaze and said, "This debt will be settled one day. Sooner or later, I will hang Qin Yi and Long Qianlin's heads under the eaves of Zetian Palace." As she said this, Lin Muyu asked again, "Have you found His Majesty's body?" "Yes, he was buried on the shore of Fairy Lake without building an imperial mausoleum." Feng Jixing said lightly, "This was decided by Duke Muyun and Duke Kanglin together." Beside him, Qin Yin said, "Father was so headstrong that he was killed at Fairy Lake. Perhaps it would be better for him to be buried by Fairy Lake. After all, if he were alive, he might not be willing to be buried in the imperial mausoleum." "Yes." Feng Jixing nodded. Lin Muyu looked down at the retreating trees and suddenly asked, "Who is in control of Cangnan province now?" "In Duke Lan's hands." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "In June 3 years ago, Xiangyu led the army to soak the Daojiang River with poisonous fruits and cut off the water source of the righteous army in Wugu City. The poisonous water spread and caused a plague. Wugu City became a dead city and naturally fell into the hands of Xiangyu and Duke Lan. Although people have been migrating to Wugu City for the past 3 years, Wugu City is no longer as prosperous as it used to be. The total population is less than 500,000. Lin Muyu's body trembled slightly and she laughed bitterly. No wonder they said that the Iha Kingdom's massacre in Lanyan City for half a month couldn't compare to the number of people killed by Xiangyu, the #1 meritorious minister of the empire. Feng Jixing murmured, "Xiangyu is ruthless and unscrupulous. Although he is not a benevolent general, he is indeed a valiant one. During extraordinary times, when you and I were not around, the empire needed a general. That's why Xiangyu has the status he has today. Without Xiangyu's contributions, I'm afraid that Duke Lan would not be able to stand up to Duke Yin. It's also thanks to Duke Lan and Duke Yin. Why do you say that? Otherwise, to what extent would Duke Yin be able to cover the sky with one hand? I'm afraid that he would have already abolished Xiao Yin and made himself the empress." A murderous look flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. Qin Yin was slightly stunned. "Brother Yu, I don't think so. He's my grandfather. Lanyan City is surrounded by the Iha Kingdom, but he hasn't sent a single soldier. This is enough to prove that he doesn't care about your life at all. Even if you are in his heart, Xiao Yin, in Duke Yan's heart, you are definitely not as important as half of the empire." Lin Muyu took a deep look at Qin Yin and said, "If you need to make a decision one day, I hope you won't hesitate." Qin Yin frowned and nodded her head in pain, not saying a word. Zhang Wei, who was at the side, smiled and said, "Great Deacon, as you said, Her Highness is not as important as half of the empire in Duke Yun's heart. What about you? How important is Her Highness to you?" Everyone looked at him. After a few seconds of silence, Lin Muyu raised her head and said, "I don't know, but I will do my best to help Xiao Yin combine the two halves of the empire." Feng Jixing was stunned, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The bodyguards of Muyu City behind Qin Yin looked at each other, and their eyes were full of shock. To them, Lin Muyu's words were too arrogant, but when it came from Lin Muyu, it didn't feel arrogant at all. It seemed that everyone thought it was not impossible. Qin Imperial Mausoleum, National Monument. The National Monument was lined up in a row, and the one at the front was the main monument. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, and the rest got off their horses and came to the front of the giant monument. They looked up at the familiar names. The first name was Lin Muyu, and the handwriting was strong. "Do you want to remove your name?" Qin Yin asked softly from the side. "No need." Lin Muyu still looked up, and she smiled and said, "That day I really died. I will leave my name on it as a warning to myself. Every minute and every second, I might die to see Brother Chu Huayin, Brother Qin Lei, and the rest." Qin Yin nodded lightly. "All right then." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said to the national monument in a deep voice, "Brother Qin Lei, Grandpa Lei Hong, Grandpa Chu Chu, Brother Luo Lai, I Lin Muyu did not die. I am back. Please watch from the underworld. Brother Feng and I, along with everyone else, will definitely help Xiao Yin regain her throne and return peace to the world. All the hatred will be washed away with blood." Feng Jixing also cupped his fists and said, "Qin Lei, Deacon Lei Hong Chu Xiao Lai, please rest in peace. You is back alive, and I will no longer fight alone. We don't know if we can change our fate, but we will definitely do our best." Qin Yin looked up at the sky and murmured, "Father, Brother Yu is back. Do you see it? He will not let you down, and he has never let you down." Chapter 330. A month passed in the blink of an eye. In the month after Lin Muyu returned to Lanyan City, she spent her days going through the files in the Holy Temple. After the chaos in the Iha Kingdom, there were more and more files. All the branches of the Holy Temple would send a letter if there were any unresolved matters. And these tasks naturally fell on the shoulders of Lin Muyu. Other than that, she would go to Zetian Hall to accompany Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, Or go to the spiritual medicine department to meet with the spiritual medicine department's great deacon, Chu Yao, to teach her some cultivation tricks and techniques. As for personal martial arts training, she had basically practiced the 12 styles of the dragon taming spear technique in a month, and often exchanged pointers with a few deacons of the Holy Temple. She even occasionally acted as a Gold Star sparring master, which made a group of Gold Star instructors feel flattered. Everyone knew how strong Lin Muyu was, and being able to be her opponent was an honor. The only thing that troubled Lin Muyu was the broken sword left behind by the 7 luminaries demon emperor. She had not succeeded in smelting it for a month, as if the broken sword was completely insulated from the flames and the refining cauldron. There was nothing Lulu could do about it. Lulu was an intelligent being, but she could not analyze the structure of the broken sword, which was beyond her understanding. There was no other way. She could only wait until she obtained a stronger refining flame. As for Tanglan and Su Muyun, they almost controlled the entire military and political power. Almost all the military positions in the army were divided between Su Muyun and Tanglan's people. The Longdan army camp was still a 1,000-man formation that could not be broken through. It was the same for the Imperial Guards. Feng Jixing wanted to recruit more soldiers, but he had to pass through layers of obstacles. Fortunately, the Divine Temple's staff had been pouring in from Cloud Province, Seven Seas Province, Heaven's Pivot Province, Earth Star Province, Songnan Province, and other provinces. Many of the Divine Temple's staff had even crossed the mountains and ridges in Lingnan. Although the Iha Kingdom had already unified Lingnan, the Divine Temple was still loyal to the Empire. A portion of the Divine Temples in Lingnan had been destroyed, but there were still many who maintained contact with the Divine Temple's headquarters, so they had sent many people over. Lin Muyu was not worried that these people were spies from Lingnan. They were all accepted into temple. Even if they were from Lingnan, he would make them his men. This was the confidence that a general should have. In this 1 month, almost 10,000 craftsmen had been employed to build the city. The entire residential area behind the Holy Temple had been turned into barracks, training grounds, and martial arts halls. It was enough for more than 10,000 people to live in. Early in the morning, a ray of sunlight shone into the great deacon's office. Lin Muyu leaned against the chair, and actually fell asleep. The files on the desk were piled up like a mountain. It was no wonder that even a strong person like him would be exhausted. Knock knock. Guyang knocked on the door and entered with a scroll in his hand. He said with a smile, "Great Deacon." "Oh, Deacon Guyang is here." Lin Muyu stood up and said with a respectful smile, "What is this?" "A list," Guyang said. "The list of the Holy Temple's employees from all over the Empire is here. There are a total of 13,244 people. It seems that there are still people coming from far away." "Great Deacon, you know that if people from Tongtian Province and Lingdong Province want to come here, it will take at least a month on horseback. If they don't have money to buy horses, it will take at least 3 months to get to Lanyan City." "Yes, I understand. Thank you for your hard work, Grandpa Guyang," Lin Muyu said with a smile. Guyang revealed a trace of embarrassment and said, "It's just that, Great Deacon, these people's clothing, armor, weapons, food and so on all need money. Our Holy Temple's treasury was almost used up in half a month. That was Great Deacon Lei Hong's painstaking efforts for most of his life. It was squandered by you just like that." Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I don't want to, but this is money that must be spent. Speaking of which, although Grandpa Lei Hong is a rare expert in cultivation, he really doesn't know anything about business. Look at how poor the Holy Temple is," Guyang said. "What about the following expenses?" "It's okay, I have money here." Lin Muyu took out 1,000,000 gold notes and gave them to Guyang. She smiled and said, "This was given to me by that old guy Yu Qiyan. It must be the wealth of the people from the Heaven's Pivot Province. It's perfect to use it here." Guyang's face flushed red as he looked at the stack of money. This old man has never seen so much money in his life. "I'll bring some people to exchange it. Haha, our Holy Temple's financial crisis has been resolved. Bring one more person, don't let them rob us." "Don't worry, who in Lanyan City dares to rob the Holy Temple's funds?" Guyang laughed wildly as he left. Lin Muyu was speechless. However, the money in her universe bag was getting less and less. She had already spent $1 million on building new barracks and buying weapons and horses. She had just spent another $1 million. If she didn't find more sources of income, she would have to spend it all. It was a pity that after the Iha Kingdom's massacre, there was no news of the Imperial Merchant Guild. What replaced it was a messy battle between more than a dozen merchant guilds. It wasn't suitable to do business with anyone. Moreover, she had no idea where Jin Xiaoteng and Third Fatty Jin had gone. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. "Milord Luo Yu requests an audience." "Come in." "Yes." Luo Yu put the metal helmet of the Longdan army camp under her armpit and walked in with her head held high. She was dressed in the Empire's military uniform and seemed to be in high spirits. She smiled and said, "Milord, I'm here." "What's the matter?" Lin Muyu continued to read through the memorials. She smiled and said, "Luo Yu, you're now the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp, and also the deputy commander of the Empire. You don't need to be so respectful to me. I'm just a mere grand deacon of the Holy Temple." Luo Yu couldn't help but laugh. "Milord, what are you saying? Even if Luo Yu becomes the Empire's marshal, I'll always be your subordinate. Moreover, I've come with news." What news?" "We've found Jin Xiaoteng's whereabouts." "Oh, where?" Lin Muyu hurriedly stood up. Luo Yu said, "In the commoners' district south of the city. It said that after the Iha Kingdom conquered the city, they massacred the Imperial Merchant Guild and killed many people. They took everything from the Imperial Merchant Guild. Furthermore, Jin Xiaoteng's father also died in the massacre. Right now Jin Xiaoteng is running a small business, buying and selling some clumsy weapons. She's been bullied quite a bit when doing business with those mercenaries." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Let's go. Take me to see Xiaoteng." Yes. Perhaps it was because Lin Muyu's status was different now, but before he left, he was arranged to have 8 temple guards follow him. In any case, there were more than 10,000 temple guards training in the camp behind the temple. The temple was not lacking in manpower now. Luo Yu was dressed in the Empire's high-ranking officer's uniform and galloped alongside Lin Muyu. Lanyan City was too big. After galloping for nearly an hour, they finally arrived at the commoners' district south of the city. This place was already filled with a foul atmosphere. It was a place where thieves, swindlers, wandering mercenaries, bards, prostitutes, and patrons would appear. Luo Yu pointed to a tavern in the distance and said, "There, that tavern is where Jin Xiaoteng often trades weapons with the mercenaries. She's in charge of maintaining and manufacturing the weapons, while the mercenaries are in charge of paying." Lin Muyu spurred his horse forward and dismounted from afar. He handed the reins to a temple guard and walked into the tavern with his hand on the hilt of his sword. The tavern was bustling with activity as everyone was drinking and no one noticed him. Under the dim light, some mercenaries in broken armor were drinking heartily not far away. They gulped down large cups of barley wine, which flowed down their beards and landed on their red chest hair, which seemed to be on the verge of burning. In the corner, Lin Muyu saw Jin Xiaoteng. She was much thinner and weaker than before. She held a slightly rusty longsword in her arms and carefully placed it in front of a bearded mercenary. "What? You want 2 Jin coins for this kind of trash?" The bearded mercenary suddenly stood up and pushed Jin Xiaoteng away. His face was filled with an arrogant smile. "How about I give you 2 nights of pleasure? Little girl, buying and selling weapons on Rotten Water Street is under the control of the Imperial Guards. Do you know who I am? How dare you bargain with me?" Jin Xiaoteng felt wronged and tears welled up in her eyes. She stood there motionlessly and muttered, 2 Jin coins, not 1 less. If you give me less, I won't even have money for this week's bread. 2 Jin coins, right? Here." The mercenary randomly took out 2 copper coins and threw them on the table. He smiled and said, "Here, don't say that I took your sword for free." Jin Xiaoteng was on the verge of tears. "This is 2 copper coins, everyone saw it. Do you want to die?" The bearded mercenary was completely enraged. He stepped forward and grabbed Jin Xiaoteng's neck. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept past and a strong palm blocked the mercenary's arm. Like a pair of iron pincers, it pushed the mercenary back. Bam! The bearded mercenary slammed heavily into the wall. He immediately became dizzy and shouted angrily, "Who is it? How dare you offend me in Rotten Water Street?" But when he looked closely, he realized that the person in front of him was wearing the armor of a high-ranking general of the empire. There was a very noble-looking golden leaf on his chest, and he immediately sobered up. "Luo," you said coldly. "What, you want to challenge the great deacon of the Holy Cathedral? Get lost." The bearded man's nature of bullying the weak and fearing the strong was exposed. He immediately turned to leave. "Wait, put down your sword," Lin Muyu said coldly. The bearded man put down his sword and looked at Lin Muyu with respect in his eyes. Then he ran out of the tavern as if he was escaping. Jin Xiaoting looked at Lin Muyu dumbfoundedly. She suddenly opened her arms and threw herself into his embrace. She cried loudly, "Big brother you! My father was killed by the Iha kingdom. Uncle Zhang, Uncle Lu, Elder Jin, and the others are all dead, all dead." Lin Muyu hugged her frail body and said, I know. Don't cry, Xiaoting. Everything will be fine. And the Sword Elder is also dead." Jin Xiaotang's eyes were filled with tears. The Sword Elder's hidden sword was taken away by Luo Lan. All his wealth was robbed by Luo Lan. Lin Muyu trembled. Although the Sword Elder was eccentric, he was still his swordsmanship instructor. Luo Lan's blood debt seemed to have increased. "Xiaoting, how did you end up like this?" Lin Muyu asked. Jin Xiaoting wiped her tears and said, "Pan Dingtian he saw that the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce lost power after my father died. So, he opened a new dragon-seeking Chamber of Commerce and chased me out of Tongtian Street. I have nothing left and can only live here." Pan Dingtian. Lin Muyu frowned. "Isn't Pan Dingtian's daughter Pan Zyridium your best friend? She didn't protect you?" Zyridium had no choice. "Don't worry, I'll be there for everything." Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. "I want to create a new Chamber of Commerce to compete with the dragon-seeking Chamber of Commerce. Xiaoting, are you willing to be in charge of my Chamber of Commerce?" "Ah, really?" Jin Xiaoting blinked her eyes. "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. "I'll give you 3 million in operating funds. This is all I have. In addition, I'll give you a large number of high-grade weapons and medicines. Do you have the confidence to surpass the dragon-seeking Chamber of Commerce?" Jin Xiaoting clenched her fists and nodded. "As long as Brother Yu supports me, I can. Yes, it's a deal. Let's go. Change into a nice set of clothes and start immediately." "Okay." Chapter 331. In the afternoon, Jin Xiaoting had already changed into a brand new set of clothes, and once again became delicate and beautiful. As the saying goes, clothes make the man. Without a decent set of clothes, one wouldn't have much confidence in speaking, let alone convincing others. Lin Muyu and the 3 deacons of the Divine Palace personally escorted Jin Xiaoting to a few places. The Ministry of Revenue, where they bought the foundations and buildings for the Merchant Guild. In reality, it was still the same merchant guild in the imperial capital. However, after the Iha kingdom killed Third Fatty Jin and the other owners, this place became ownerless, so it was sealed off by Feng Jixing's men. In the afternoon, the seal was removed. The next step was to gather manpower. This matter was handed to Jin Xiaoting. Lin Muyu gave her 3 million gold notes and asked Wei Chou to arrange 5 experts from the Longdan army camp to protect Jin Xiaoting. After the Iha kingdom's rebellion, the security in the imperial capital was not very safe. At dusk, Lin Muyu arrived at Zetian Palace. Qin Yin was practicing the god-binding chains. She raised her head and saw Lin Muyu. She immediately stood up and smiled. "Brother Yu, you haven't come to Zetian Palace for 3 days." "I've been busy." Lin Muyu smiled. "Xiaoyin, I have good news for you this time." "Oh, what good news?" "Look at this." Lin Muyu took out a shop contract from her pocket. It was a proof of contract with the Ministry of Revenue for new merchant guilds. Otherwise, it would be considered illegal. This contract cost Lin Muyu 100,000 gold coins. It was too difficult to open a merchant guild. "Merchant guild contract?" Qin Yin widened her eyes and asked in surprise. Look at the signature of the owner. Wow. Qin Yin saw that the name of the merchant guild was Zine Flower Merchant Guild. The owner's name was Qin Yin. She looked at Lin Muyu in shock. Brother Yu, this is, Lin Muyu said. I found Jin Xiaoting from the merchant guild and asked her to build a merchant guild for me. This will be the source of funds for the Divine Palace Army and the Longdan Army Camp. But if I do it boldly, Duke Lan and Duke Yin will definitely make things difficult for me. So, I decided to let you, the Empress, be the owner of the merchant guild. This way, no one will make things difficult for you. Xiao Yin, all you have to do is sign your name and stamp the Empress's seal. That will be enough. I see. Qin Yin burst into laughter. Brother Yu is really meticulous. You even thought of such a method. By the way, what's the situation with the Holy Palace Army? How is the Divine Palace Army doing? More than 13,000 people have gathered and are training. Don't worry. Lin Muyu said confidently. The Divine Palace Army will be your bargaining chip, Xiao Yin. Write a letter to Xiao Shi and ask her to order the demons to tame more warhorses. In the future, the Divine Palace Army will buy warhorses from them at a low price. Okay, I will do it. Qin Yin took out a brush and ink. She quickly signed her name on the contract and stamped it with the Empress's seal. Lin Muyu kept the contract as if it was a treasure and smiled. Just wait and see the rise of the Zine Flower Merchant Guild. If we can control the economy of Lanyan City, we will not have to be afraid of Duke Lan and Duke Yin. Okay. I will leave now. I will come and see you when I am done. Okay. Goodbye, Brother Yu. Qin Yin walked him all the way to the door. She watched as Lin Muyu mounted his horse and galloped away. She was happy and disappointed at the same time. She was happy that he came back alive, but she was disappointed that he couldn't stay by her side after running around for her. The maid beside her couldn't help but giggle. Your Highness, the chief deacon will come back again. You don't have to be like this, right? Little girl, how dare you make fun of me? Qin Yin laughed and scolded. Hurry up and prepare dinner. I want to drink soup tonight. Yes, I will get the imperial kitchen to prepare it now. At night, when Ren Baqian arrived at the entrance of the new merchant guild without stopping, she found that Jin Xiaoting had already hired a large group of workers to renovate the shop. Although the total area of the new merchant guild was less than 20% of the original one in the capital, everything would come back as long as the business was booming. Jin Xiaoting, who walked out of the commoners' area, looked radiant. Her entire temperament had changed. When she saw Lin Muyu, she immediately greeted her with a smile and said, Brother Yu, everything is ready. We can hang out our shop tomorrow. That's good. Lin Muyu asked, How's the source of goods? Jin Xiaoting nodded and said, It's almost done. I contacted some suppliers that I knew in the past and bought a batch of spirit stones, armors, weapons, and so on at a price 10% higher than the Dragon Merchant Guild. I plan to open 5 shops in the Zine Flower Merchant Guild. Spirit stones, armor, weapons, medicine, and auction. After that, I will slowly open a rice shop, cloth shop, game shop, and so on. What do you think, Brother Yu? Well, we'll do it step by step. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Did we attract the attention of other merchant guilds with such a big fanfare? Of course. Jin Xiaoting giggled and said, A few shifty-eyed fellows came in the afternoon. I knew they were from other merchant guilds at first glance. Currently, there are 3 large merchant guilds in Lanyan City. Pandingtian's Dragon Merchant Guild is the largest with a total capital of nearly 200 million Jin Huan coins. Lu Xian's Thousand Victories Merchant Guild has a total capital of about 80 million Jin Huan coins. Zhao Su's Soaring Dragon Merchant Guild has a total capital of about 52 million Jin Huan coins. I found out that if we want to officially rise in the Zine Flower Merchant Guild, we must challenge the authority of these 3 large merchant guilds. Are you confident? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Jin Xiaoting pursed her lips and smiled faintly. She walked up to him and held his arm and said coyly, It depends on your performance, brother. As long as you show your special skills, these people, are not worth mentioning at all. Perhaps, you still want to dream of extreme peaks? Yes, although Dream of Extreme Peaks is only a level 7 potion. Its formula has long been lost, and no one knows how to refine it. Only Brother Yu knows how to refine it. This is our chance. I've already sent people to search for medicinal ingredients for the rainbow lotus and the skeleton tree. I plan to auction 50 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peaks at that time for the opening of the Zine Flower Merchant Guild in 3 days. After that, 50 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peaks will be auctioned every day for the next 4 days, provided that Brother you can refine 250 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peaks. All right. Lin Muyu sighed and said, I've had a hard life. I've always had to work hard. Jin Shouting giggled and said, Don't be unreasonable. The entire Zine Flower Merchant Guild is yours. I'm just working for you. You have to understand this. Yes, I understand. Lin Muyu reached out and patted her head. She smiled and said, Work hard. I won't mistreat you. Jin Shouting was stunned. Her eyes were a little red and she said, I don't ask for anything else. I just hope that if something big happens again, Brother you can protect me. Don't let me struggle out of a pile of corpses. I know I won't. Lin Muyu sighed. Jin Shouting had experienced life and death to survive. It was indeed not easy. However, at that time, the 300,000-strong army of the Iha nation had massacred the entire city. They killed everyone they saw regardless of the situation. Who could control their own fate in that situation? Jin Shouting smiled and said, It's all Xiaotong's fault. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. By the way, Brother Yu Shouting bought a lot of spirit stones. They're all cheap goods between 1,000 to 2,000 years old. There's also a lot of 100-year-old and 1,000-year-old dark steel. How strong of a weapon can you make with these materials? Lin Muyu pondered for a moment. It's uncertain if it's profound grade, but it should at least be spirit grade. Yes, that's good. We might have to trouble Big Brother Yu. This time we need 1,000 spirit grade and above weapons to strengthen the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. Big Brother, you've suffered. F***CK. Lin Muyu looked at her with a naughty smile. You don't look like you care about me. Who said that? My heart aches, okay? Jin Shouting came to his back and gently massaged his shoulders with a smile. When you're done, Shouting will give you a massage as compensation. No need. Lin Muyu patted her fingers and said with a smile, I'm wearing shoulder armor. Don't pinch me. I can't feel anything. Jin Shouting pouted and asked, Brother Yu, why do you have to wear a suit of armor for everything? It's the same at home. The imperial capital is not peaceful. Lin Muyu said softly, Moreover, I'm the Grand Deacon of the Sanctum and a soldier of the Empire. It's necessary to be prepared at all times. Besides, wearing armor is equivalent to training. It's a good thing. Look at Feng Jixing and Wei Chou. They also wear armor all day long. It's a kind of professionalism. Just like you, as an outstanding businessman, you have to learn to face people with a smile, even if you hate them. Jin Shouting nodded. Yes, I understand. Oh, right, where should I send the herbs, spirit stones, and dark iron? Let Wei Chou send people from the Longdan army camp directly to the sanctum. Okay, got it. Then I'll return to the sanctum to train and wait for your materials. Okay. Jin Shouting was very efficient. Before midnight, a whole cart of rainbow lotus, skeleton tree, and other herbs were sent to Lin Muyu's office. Then came a large amount of dark iron, spirit stones, and other things. Fortunately, the Grand Deacon's office was very big and could hold so many things. As for the sanctum guards outside, they had all been replaced with people from the Longdan army camp. Their loyalty was not a problem. There was no hurry to forge weapons. He had to forge Dream of the Extreme first. It took Lin Muyu 7 hours to make 250 bottles of Dream of the Extreme, but he was pleasantly surprised to find that after his martial spirit was upgraded to the purple gold gourd, his recovery ability had increased a lot. After continuously making medicine, he still had a lot of do qi left to forge weapons. Regardless of whether it was day or night, he took the food from the sanctum guards and ate it quickly. After that, he started forging weapons. The Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce would open in 3 days, so he needed a batch of high-quality goods. Otherwise, how could he compete with the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce and the Thousand Victories Chamber of Commerce? Chapter 332. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the middle of the night, Wei Chou personally led 100 soldiers from the Longdan army camp to transport away the fruits of Lin Muyu's labor, 250 bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks, and a total of 298 weapons. Most of these weapons were of the spirit grade, and a few of them were of the mysterious grade. Furthermore, Lin Muyu took out the few remaining high-age spirit stones in her Qiankuan bag, and forged a few mysterious grade level 1 and 2 weapons. Most of them were spears, sabers, and other weapons suitable for killing on the battlefield. It had only been 3 years since the Iha nation's chaos ended. Soldiers from both nations were fighting desperately at the borders every day. The weapon's aesthetic value had finally been reduced to the lowest point. The only thing that everyone pursued was the degree of lethality and sharpness. On the morning of the third day, the Zine Flower Merchant Association officially opened for business. Jin Xiaoting used her past connections and the powerful power of the Jining coins to promote the establishment. A day ago, there were already nobles coming from the Seven Seas Province, the Cloud Province, the Heavens Pivot Province, and the Earth Star Province. They were all here for the bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks and a suitable weapon. Great Deacon, Miss Xiaoting is already waiting outside, Ma Lin, the Gold Star instructor of the Sanctum, said respectfully from outside. Oh, got it. Lin Muyu was taking a nap with her eyes closed. When she heard Ma Lin's voice, she immediately opened her eyes and patted the dust off her body. She said, Sir Ma Lin, call all the Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters to follow me to the Zine Flower Merchant Association to support Xiaoting. Yes, Grand Deacon. Soon a total of 7 Gold Star instructors, 5 Gold Star sparring masters, and 3 deacons were ready. They stood respectfully in the hall, waiting for Lin Muyu, the young Grand Deacon. Although he was very young, Zheng Shanhe by Li Fu, and the others were already convinced by this young Grand Deacon. Lin Muyu had been in a coma for 3 years. He was now 26 years old, but he had already stepped into the third heaven of the heaven realm. He could break through and step into the sanctuary realm at any time. Such a genius who could step into the sanctuary realm before the age of 30 was unheard of. Moreover, after the battle in Lanyan City, Lin Muyu dared to face the divine Luolan, which was something that ordinary people could not do. This made his status in the hearts of the warriors in the cultivation world of the empire become more and more respected. Great Deacon, we can set off now. Zheng Shanhe cupped his fists. All right, let's go. Outside the temple, Jin Xiaoting waited for a long time with a few guards hired by the Chamber of Commerce. She smiled and said, Brother Yu, if you didn't come out, I would have rushed in. Soon, the opening ceremony is about to begin. All right. Everyone went to the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce together. There were already many people outside the door. Unlike what they had imagined, there were no firecrackers, because there was no gunpowder in the Shattered Cauldron realm for the time being. This was a problem that Lin Muyu had thought about for a long time. In this era of cold weapons, if gunpowder and heavy artillery could be developed, it would probably be enough to reverse the situation. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu had walked through many mountains and seen many mines, but he had not found any trace of sulfur. There was no sulfur in this world, so naturally, it could not be made into gunpowder. After entering the Chamber of Commerce, it was indeed bustling with activity. There was an endless stream of people riding their horses into the Chamber of Commerce. A group of people dressed in luxurious clothes crowded together, commenting on the weapons, potions, and armors displayed in the Chamber of Commerce. Most of the weapons were made by Lin Muyu, but no one knew it. However, the temple and the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce had a close relationship. The world would soon know that Lin Muyu was a master refiner. But even if they knew, there were not many people in Lanyan City who could be a match for Lin Muyu. Xiangyu was one, but Xiangyu did not have absolute confidence in Lin Muyu's victory. After the opening ceremony, it was time for the auction. Jin Xiaoting, who was wearing a red and white dress, gracefully walked onto the stage. She held a scroll in her hand and smiled as she announced the auction's list of items. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming from afar to support the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. The next items to be auctioned are Green Unadorned Blade, Mysterious Grade Rank 1, starting price of 3,000 Jinlin dollars. Extreme Fire Spear, Mysterious Grade Rank 1. Starting price of 4,000 Jinlin dollars. Firefox Spear, Mysterious Grade Rank 1. Starting price of 4,000 Jinlin dollars. Sealing Thundersword, Mysterious Grade Rank 2. Starting price of 2,000 Jinlin dollars. She announced 50 weapons in a row, and her face was flushed red. The people below the stage could not hold back any longer. Someone immediately shouted, "When will the auction for Dream of the Extreme Peak begin?" "Don't worry, Lord." Jin Xiaoting giggled. "After the weapons are auctioned, it will be Dream of the Extreme Peak's turn." Thus, the process proceeded smoothly step by step. There were still too many rich people in Lanyan City. Moreover, there were also quite a few rich people from Heaven's Pivot Province, Earth Star Province, and other provinces. A few mysterious grade rank 1 weapons were auctioned for a high price of over 50,000 Jinlin dollars. This made Jin Xiaoting extremely happy. When it came to the auction of Peak of Dreams, it caused an even bigger uproar. The first bottle of Peak of Dreams was sold for 14,000 gold kin coins, and the second bottle was sold for 13,200 gold kin coins. On the second floor of the auction, Lin Muyu, Weiqiu, Qin Yan, and the rest were watching the auction with great interest. In the past, it was the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce that earned money. But this time, it was all their own profits. Qin Yan narrowed his eyes and said, "Big brother, look at that person in black who just bid for a bottle of Dream of the Extreme Peak. Looking at his attire, he should be from Lingnan. Could he be a spy from the Iha Empire? Do you want me to take him down?" "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head. "Even if he's from the Iha Empire, he can't make a move here. The Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce is a merchant. Moreover, there are still merchants traveling between Lingnan and Lingbei to this day. So there's no meaning in capturing people here. It will only ruin our own business." "And I understand." However, not long after, there was suddenly a hubbub of activity outside. A Longdan army camp soldier dashed up the stairs and cupped his fists at Lin Muyu. "Lord, something bad has happened. Tang Lu brought a group of 7 Seas City's city defense army, and is causing trouble outside. He said that the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce has infiltrated a spy from the Iha Empire. He wants to bring people to capture them. Our people are almost unable to stop them." "Tang Lu." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said, "Go follow us out to take a look. Don't let Tang Lu's people disrupt the order of the Chamber of Commerce." "Yes." A group of staff from the Longdan army camp and temple followed Lin Muyu downstairs, and took a detour to the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce. Sure enough, Tang Lu brought around 300 city defense army soldiers, and was causing trouble outside. They were almost at the point of drawing their swords. "Stop!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. She walked forward with a slight smile and cupped her fists. "This subordinate greets the Marquis of Lingbei." Tang Lu also smiled and cupped his fists. "Tang Lu greets the Grand Deacon. I didn't know that the Marquis would grace us with his presence." "No need to be polite." Tang Lu waved his hand and said with a slightly respectful expression, "Grand Deacon, I just received a secret report saying that a spy from the Iha Empire of Lingnan has infiltrated the merchants and entered the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. So I immediately led the city defense army to capture him. I hope that Grand Deacon can let them pass. I am carrying out official duties." "Official duties?" Lin Muyu raised her brows and said with a smile, "As far as I know, the Imperial Army is responsible for the safety of the city. I dare not trouble the Marquis of Lingbei's city defense army. Why is it this time?" Tang Lu said, "A spy from the Iha Empire has infiltrated Lanyan City. This is no small matter, so the city defense army has personally taken action." Weiqiu couldn't help but sneer. "Marquis, the temple is responsible for the safety of the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. There is no need for the city defense army to interfere. Marquis of Lingbei, please return. Commander Weiqiu has quite the tone." Tang Lu laughed. "A mere commander of the Longdan army camp, and a mere 1,000-man commander dares to speak to me like this?" Lin Muyu hinted with her eyes. Weiqiu cupped his fists. This subordinate was anxious just now and lost his sense of propriety. "I hope that the Marquis can forgive me." "Umph." Tang Lu said indifferently. Grand Deacon, let them pass immediately. Otherwise, I will think that you are deliberately protecting a spy from the Iha Empire. Don't blame me for taking action. Want to take action? Lin Muyu slowly raised her hand and said, Everyone from the Longdan army camp and the temple, prepare for battle. Whoever dares to make a move against us will be killed without mercy. I will bear all responsibility after this. Wei Chou and the rest raised their longbows one after another. Qin Yan also drew his fire serpent spear. The dragon scale armor coiled around his body as he looked at Tang Lu with a grin. Everyone here was the elites of the Longdan army camp and the temple. In addition, there was Lin Muyu with Heavenly Emperor cultivation. If they really took action, Tang Lu probably wouldn't even have a 10% chance of victory. At this time Jin Xiaodong, who handled matters the softest, appeared. She gave Tang Lu a graceful lady's bow and said with a smile, The Marquis might not know, but the owner of this Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce isn't me, Jin Xiaodong, but someone else. It's just that because of her, the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce absolutely won't protect a spy from the Iha Empire. Oh. Tang Lu raised his eyebrows and said, What do you mean? Jin Xiaodong reached into her bosom and took out the Chamber of Commerce contract. With a shake of her hand, the contract swiftly unfolded and she said with a smile, Marquis Lingbei, please take a good look. The owner of the Chamber of Commerce is Her Highness, Empress Qin Yin. This contract has Her Highness's personal signature and the Empress's seal. If the Marquis suspects that we are sheltering a spy, then it's the same as suspecting that Empress Qin Yin is sheltering a spy. Immediately, the group of soldiers behind Tang Lu all knelt down and shouted, Long live the Empress! Tang Lu was also startled. He gritted his teeth and said, Lin Muyu, consider yourself formidable. Let's go. The city defense troops came quickly and left quickly as well. What the hell is this Tang Lu up to? Lin Muyu frowned. Jin Xiaodong smiled and said, Brother, you might not know, but the Dragon's Search Chamber of Commerce, which has the most business in Lanyan City, is actually backed by Duke Lan. Otherwise, how do you think Pan Dingtian was able to make the nameless Dragon's Search Chamber of Commerce rise so quickly after the massacre of the city? We stole Duke Lan's business, which is why Tang Lu came to make things difficult for us. It's all thanks to Brother Yu's move. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do this time. I see. Lin Muyu clenched her fist tightly. It seemed like the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce still had a long way to go to unify the economic lifeline of Lanyan City. Chapter 333. On the first day of business, the Xian Flower Chamber of Commerce earned 21 million Jin coins. Neither Lin Muyu nor Jin Xiaodong had expected such a huge number. It was a perfect start. That night, many suppliers and small chambers of commerce came to discuss cooperation. Jin Xiaodong was overjoyed. She would be busy tonight. Lin Muyu was not someone who was obsessed with making money. He was more proficient in cultivation. Late at night, the stars twinkled. Lin Muyu stood in the backyard of the Grand Deacon's office. He looked up at the sky full of stars and could feel the strong power of the stars. The astral tactics had a total of 9 levels. Lin Muyu had only comprehended the first level, which was far from enough. He took a deep breath and suddenly increased his battle chi. Suddenly, the power of the stars lingered around his body. This was the prelude to the first appearance of the stars. However, he did not condense a killing move. Instead, he used the power of the stars in his body to cultivate his EC. For a moment, all the stars in the sky dimmed. Rays of starlight that were hard to see with the naked eye fell to the ground and slowly entered Lin Muyu's body. If someone paid attention, they would find that the stars in Lanyan City were much dimmer than before. After more than 2 hours, the backyard of the Grand Deacon's office was like a spectacle. Bright stars floated around Lin Muyu's body and slowly flowed. Lin Muyu's face showed a relaxed expression. He opened his hands naturally and 2 blue stars appeared in his palms. At this moment, he was like a god in the universe, able to grasp the vast stars in the palm of his hand. Swoosh swoosh. In the EC, wisps of blue light and fiery red light spiraled together and slowly generated the power of the stars. Lin Wuyu could not help but be ecstatic. This was a sign that the astral tactics had broken through to the second level. As long as the EC could generate stars, then it would be able to enter the second level. The condensing of stars in the EC, as the name suggested, was actually a kind of spiritual power. The integration of the power of the stars into the spiritual power was a higher level of martial arts. Fortunately, Lin Wuyu had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique for many years, and her soul was already very strong. Just like that, rays of stars condensed in Lin Wuyu's Yi. Whoosh! Her spiritual perception also appeared in her Yi. Lin Wuyu looked up and saw that there were more and more stars in her Yi. It was as if all the stars in the sky were contained in her Yi. Swish, swish, swish. A blazing sun hovered in the sky above the sea, and at the same time, 8 small stars hovered around it. This was the solar system. Lin Wuyu was shocked. It was indeed the solar system. This was probably the solar system created by the star tactics with her deep consciousness. In the blink of an eye, the distance in the Yi quickly increased, and the solar system became smaller and smaller. It disappeared in the brilliant galaxy, and was replaced by the even more majestic Milky Way. The Milky Way was so bright that Lin Wuyu was stunned. He could even feel the strong power coming from these stars. It was so powerful that it was the power of the stars that humans could not truly control. Soon, the Milky Way became smaller again, and was replaced by a vast nebula. The stars in these nebula were like flames that quickly condensed and fell from the sky, falling directly on Lin Wuyu's spiritual body. Lin Wuyu could not help but tremble. His body seemed to be on fire. Was this the myriad world stars tempering his body and soul? The endless pain was like cutting his heart and flesh. Lin Wuyu could not help but curl up there and wail. Every inch of his skin was being burned and tempered by the star fire. But he had to get through this, otherwise the breakthrough of the star tactics would fail. As the 7 luminaries demon emperor said, the star tactics was more mysterious than the 7 luminaries. This also meant that the cultivation of the star tactics was more difficult than the 7 luminaries. It was millions of times more difficult. After an unknown amount of time, the pain in Lin Wuyu's body finally slowly disappeared. The myriad world stars in his Yi slowly circulated, nourishing his soul. He took a deep breath and his spiritual sense flew out of his Yi. He slowly opened his eyes and found that the sky was already bright. The sky was bright. Unknowingly, he had cultivated for an entire night. At the same time, there seemed to be a force in his palm that could not be released. He gently exerted his force and suddenly, with a hua sound, a beautiful silk ribbon was pulled out from his palm. It swayed slowly as if it had a life of its own. But Lin Wuyu was shocked. This was not a ribbon, it was a nebula. This power wasn't something the ribbon could compare to. The second move of the star tactics was finally mastered. It was the star chain in his hand. Whether it was toughness or attack power, it was very scary. Lin Wuyu did not even dare to fully release it because the explosive power was too strong. He did not want to personally destroy the rebuilt holy sanctum. He slowly withdrew his strength and the star chain like a ribbon seeped into his body. But Lin Wuyu also noticed that there was a blue flame lingering around his body. It was the star flame. He was extremely happy. He was worried that there was no stronger flame in the crafting treasure cauldron, and this star flame actually came to him. Tonight's cultivation of the star tactics was a buy one get one free deal. He quickly took out the crafting treasure cauldron, and carefully moved the remaining star flame in his body, and on the surface of his body into the crafting treasure cauldron, and then slowly refined it. The star flame was not the fire of the human world. It was more violent than the heaven fire, so it was not an easy process to refine the star flame. He did not eat, drink, and could not stay. Until dusk, the star flame finally seeped into the 7th layer of the crafting treasure cauldron, and became the 7th layer of the crafting treasure cauldron. Lin Wuyu let out a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Guards, bring me my dinner." "Yes, Grand Deacon." The guards who did not dare to disturb his cultivation were finally relieved. It was good that the Grand Deacon was willing to eat. At least he would not starve to death. The dinner was very sumptuous. There was a roast chicken, a braised pork knuckle, and a big bowl of rice. It seemed that the kitchen knew that Lin Muyu, the Grand Deacon, needed nourishment after cultivating for a whole day. It was not easy to have such a meal now. After all, Lanyan City was no longer the Lanyan City it was 3 years ago. After the Iha nation invaded, they burned and massacred the villages and small cities along the way, turning thousands of miles of fertile land in Lanyan City into wilderness. 2 years ago, many people starved to death in the barren land, and now it was not much better. Many people starved. The imperial capital was prosperous, but starving people could be seen everywhere outside Lanyan City. Even the Empress, Qin was already frugal. Naturally, Lin Muyu was embarrassed to be extravagant. Otherwise he, who was so hungry that he was about to die, could swallow a whole wild boar. After dinner, he practiced a set of demonic sound boxing to help with digestion. After cultivating the second level of the star arts, he did not feel sleepy at all, and continued to cultivate. Once again, he took out the treasure refining cauldron, and placed the broken sword left by the 7 luminaries demon emperor into the treasure refining cauldron. Streams of star flames spurted out, surrounding the broken sword and slowly turning it in the air. The flames burned fiercely. This time, from the beginning, Lin Muyu felt the possibility of refining this broken sword. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said that it was a good treasure, but what kind of treasure was it? After refining for nearly 6 hours, it was late at night. Finally, the surface of the broken sword slowly melted. The dust fell gently, revealing the true appearance of the sword. Lin Muyu saw a word on the hilt. It was vaguely the word E. What did it mean? Did it mean that this sword would stand tall and never fall? This was a bit too ridiculous. Forget it, I'll refine it first. Her spiritual sense slowly seeped into the broken sword, guiding the fire-refining cauldron to continue refining the sword. At the same time, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that this broken sword seemed to be protected by a very powerful force. It was also this force that caused the broken sword to be unable to be refined at the beginning. But now, under the burning of the star flames, this force could not even protect itself. After an unknown period of time, the surface of the broken sword slowly melted. Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced. Finally, it's refined. Not long after, the entire broken sword melted into molten iron. However, it was not a fiery red molten iron. The molten iron was actually gold. It was very mysterious. This was something that Lin Muyu had never seen before. But this was not because of the iron. This was because the molten iron was only 10,000-year dark iron. It could be said to be precious, but it was not rare. But what should she do next? Lin Muyu was in a dilemma. Before the 7 luminaries demon emperor left, he had told her to refine this broken sword, and then fuse it with her bloodline. But how was she going to do that? He frowned and continued to refine the molten iron. After an unknown period of time, waves of true yuan suddenly separated from the boiling molten iron. Yes, it was this golden true yuan. Come on! Lin Muyu let out a low grunt and stretched out her left arm, allowing the molten iron to baptize. At the same time, the golden true yuan slowly seeped into Lin Muyu's arm. Suddenly she felt a sharp pain. It was a pain that burned her soul. F***ck. He almost couldn't help but moan. He hurriedly condensed his soul to protect his spiritual sense from being damaged. The golden true yuan seeped into her bloodline at a visible rate. Did this mean that it had fused with her bloodline? Slowly feeling it, it seemed that there was a kind of power surging in her bloodline. At the same time, the golden light around her body shone brightly. The purple gold gourd martial spirit came out of her body. It seemed to be resisting something. It appeared again. Last time, the purple gold gourd was resisting Buhai's flame wolf martial spirit. What was it resisting now? But this time, the resistance was ineffective. The vigorous power in her body was like a gangster in a nightclub. Ignoring the golden gourd's resistance, it entrenched itself in Lin Muyu's body. This process lasted for nearly 5 hours. Finally, Lin Muyu's body went limp. She knelt on the ground. It was as if all the strength in her body had been sucked dry. When she looked inside her ihai, she found that there was not only the purple gold gourd. There was another golden light slowly lingering in her body. What was that? Lin Wuyu was shocked. She hurriedly opened her palm and let out a low grunt, summoning her martial spirit. Buzz. The golden light shone brightly. A golden chain broke out of her body and lingered around her arm like a god. Lin Wuyu was stunned for a moment. God-binding lock. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor's final gift was actually the God-binding lock martial spirit. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.